sleepy. I look sleep deprived, like I haven't slept for 5 days, because I haven't. The markets have been absolutely fantastic for crypto overall, and I am, very happy to hear that. But BlackRock spot ETF could bring in trillions. Now, this is something that I've been very vocal about, BlackRock spot ETF. So we are live today, and BlackRock spot ETF is actually getting closer by the minute, which is an insane improvement to where XRP was 1 year ago, where it barely got approved. That's why you're going to need some XRP, at least in my non-financial opinion. But anyway, let's just start a video, because right now XRP has broken all limits, and it's probably going to go further ahead once we get a listing, potentially in September, and BlackRock following a bit later, most likely. Or maybe even they're going to join September with the other listings.
Spot XRP and Solana ETF, the block put out a hit piece saying that BlackRock wasn't interested in this. Now today, they're being called out on a massive scale. Let's go ahead and find out what's going on.
So I don't feel like they were never interested. I mean, they said they weren't interested, but are they really going to say yes? They said the same for Ethereum. They said, no, we're not going to list it. And immediately the next month they list it. So yeah, same with Robinhood. They said they might not list some coins. Immediately in a few months they list them, right? And this is what is very common in crypto. They cannot reveal everything. Maybe they're waiting for regulation, approvals, whatever it is, and they can't talk about it. And I feel like that most people fail to miss that out, that regulation takes such a big part in today's listings, especially ETFs.
And what's to be expected? A BlackRock insider says, yes, he's putting it all on the line, that a spot XRP ETF is coming. We're going to get into this and some more information in this video. A lot of XRP.
Of course, it's coming. It's just that we're waiting for the biggest one, which is from BlackRock. Again, this would be like 90% of the size right now. And what we're seeing right now is just the US ones, like bigger, still big exchanges, but we really need to see it push forward with BlackRock if we want to see XRP reach 5.
Content. We're going to take a look here at towards the end here with some Bitcoin maxis. Can't stop talking about XRP. We got to talk about this, right? So here is the correction from Marty Party. After several conversations, this is verified as false. The story was either made up by the block journalist or taken out of context with bias. Both Solana and XRP ETFs are in discussion with BlackRock. Timing cannot be confirmed. Deadline is October to file. Here is the article that spread the false signal. Nate Grossi this is a verified nonsense from the block. XRP and spot ETFs on BlackRock applications are definitely on the table. This fake news was fabricated to all Ripple and Solana investors. Unfollow the block and definitely block their reporter for the win. So spicy. So here was the article that was put out by Sarah Wynn.
Ripple's year-long lawsuit coming to an NFX, or doesn't the XRP ETF race? Like, this is why we've been pushing for an XRP ETF race, because once that is over, it is literally sky high from there, right? So we have been begging for the lawsuit to be over, because this is what really affects the XRP prices.
So this is who this person is right here for the win. And it appears she's getting a lot of hate. Just to give you some more context around this story, the viral story from the block claiming BlackRock had officially filed for or confirmed plans to launch XRP or Solana spot ETFs is not accurate, and has been widely
like even Solana is of August 10th. Of course, Solana is still going through regulation changes as well. So why would they list it now? Makes no sense, right? Nate Geraci has stated that when he believes BlackRock will eventually file XRP and SOL ETFs, there's no confirmation or official filing yet. The October SEC simply the regulatory window which such applications should be submitted. That's exactly what I've been talking about. They are in a rush until the SEC does its due part in September, which is what I'm very vocal on this channel, right? And what I'm very hopeful.
Bunked by multiple credible sources and market reports. BlackRock has not filed for any spot ETF applications for XRP or Solana as of August 10th, 2025. The company clarified that there's no immediate plans to offer these ETFs, and the rumors of official filings or approvals, such as those spread by fake Delaware filings and certain media outlets, were either fabricated or grossly taken out of context. ETF expert Nate Grossi has stated that while he believes BlackRock will eventually file for a spot XRP and Solana ETFs, there is no communication or official filings just yet.
Of course, why would they tell the news that if they're going to make their own market team, they're $1 trillion company? It makes no sense. Why would they just suddenly like say to a random news event who asks them, yeah, sure, we're going to list it at this and this date? It makes absolutely no sense why they would do that, right? They will wait for the right moment, and they will probably launch $5 million, $10 million marketing campaign first before they even launch that. It makes total sense. It doesn't make sense to tell, a news reporter here, hey, we're going to launch it, even though the SEC hasn't approved the other ETFs. We're going to wait if the others get approved first and then, build up our credibility. It makes total sense for the BlackRock, right? They're going to let the others do the hard work first for them before they actually go and try to get approved as well. It makes total sense, guys. And smash that like button if you haven't already.
The October SEC deadline is simply the regulatory window for when such applications could be submitted, but nothing has been verified or announced regarding an actual BlackRock filing. So it looks like October should be a time where we're going to find out if and when spot XRP ETFs will be approved. And if BlackRock is thinking about getting into either XRP or Solana, that's why
of course they will get into XRP or Solana because there's a lot of money involved. They're just going to see if that volume matches the hype. So why do they list Ethereum is also because they get a lot of money from holding these ETFs. ETFs cost money for them. And if it gets approved, again, it could be easy money, trillions pumping, right? But we got to see, will this be the correct move?
Time frame that they would need to file. So this is an evolving story, guys. I'm trying to keep up with it as we go here. And, as there is corrections in the news, I will bring those corrections live on this channel. Obviously, I feel like one of those things, at the dealerships, outside of the dealerships with the error and they're flopping like this. That's how it feels like right now. And so here's Nate Garossi. If you want to follow his channel, you can. He's the president of Nova DS Wealth, host of ETF Prime, co-founder of ETF Institute, and contributor. And he is one of the insiders that has been giving us a lot of information.
To see this before filing for iShares XRP ETF, I'll own it if I'm wrong. Makes 0 sense for them to ignore crypto assets beyond Bitcoin and ETH, especially, considering how much XRP has trading volume, almost as much as Ethereum. That's a lot of money coming in, right? If they get it posted. They're basically saying Bitcoin and Ether are the only ones that will have value. Bold. So they're saying that XRP, if they don't list it, they're saying only Bitcoin and Ethereum are ever going to survive. And I don't think that. I think, XRP has proven itself to be around for many more years. Now, that's the big part here is BlackRock, listing it could, in fact, bring millions of new buyers to XRP. Nobody's talking about how many people and how big this is. This is literally a game changer. So what happened on Ethereum being approved, we saw a 25% increase. And again, Ethereum is a much bigger crypto. We have more trading volume, but in order to get 25%, you need much more money in, which is absolutely insane how much XRP could grow.
About a possible BlackRock spot ETF for XRP and other assets. Now, he believes, and he's putting his reputation on the line here. He says, yes, I think BlackRock was waiting to see this before filing for an iShares XRP ETF. I'll own it if I'm wrong. In my opinion, it makes 0 sense for them to ignore crypto assets beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. Otherwise, they basically are saying that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only ones that will ever hold value, which would be very, very bold. We know that Bitcoin is now a store of value because that is where all of the Bitcoin maxis now have put that. When we're talking about real utility, obviously Ethereum and XRP has its own.
And also the big thing, if they list the XRP ETF, imagine they need to actually own this XRP, which means they could be buying in billions of XRP, or at least millions, if not billions, which is an absolute mega pump. They need to physically own this if they are selling this to investors. So yeah, lots of money that they would buy it, not just, new investors coming in. This is why ETFs are such a hype thing, is because you basically have to buy the prices of XRP right now to sell it back to users.
Use cases, a lot of institutions and people are very interested in those assets. Now, 1,300 ETFs have launched since the beginning of last year. 10 out of the top 20 are crypto related, including the top 4 overall. 5 spot Bitcoin ETFs, 2 spot Ethereum ETFs, 2 master MSTAR ETFs, and 1 leveraged ETH ETF. Here are the inflows. It is phenomenal. You don't think BlackRock is looking at the
Let's take a look. Whoa, that's a lot of inflows. So yeah, I beat, again, BlackRock could be probably on top of this. This is the thing. BlackRock, posting this, I beat or whatever they have is literally the most important factor. Maybe not as big as Bitcoin ETFs, but still so many inflows, billions coming in, right?
XRP, Solana, as well as 2 index products as of last Friday. I'm looking to track the top 10 crypto assets globally. And so for us, really, it all comes down to giving investors this optionality and this level of choice where they can express their views on certain assets and use the ETF as a vehicle to do so in a really, like I mentioned earlier, low cost, safe, and transparent way.
Awesome.
We certainly are seeing demand.
Just to give you a little bit more information on what he's talking about here. So the global investment in XRP ETFs to date, this is giving you the incomplete picture here. Futures-based XRP ETFs, mostly US, as of August 2025, the combined capital flows into futures-based Solana and XRP ETFs globally is around 1 billion since their initial launches earlier in 2025. The majority of these products are futures backed and have been introduced in the US exchanges since April and May 2025. International.
Yeah, so right now with the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs hype dying down, that's actually good because people will be looking for the next ETF listing. And again, it will not be Bitcoin or Ethereum. It will be XRP being listed everywhere at once. And again, when you have everywhere at once, this could be the next big thing. Again, we saw it launch in Brazil, April 2025, and it went up in value. At least 1 billion as of August 2025 with combined future-based assets. But US is where the real money is, not Brazil, not Canada, ETFs, USA. Just let that sink in.
Some physically backed XRP products, such as the 21 shares AXRP ETF in Switzerland and proposals in Canada, have existed for several years. But their total amount of asset figures are modest. And so it's giving us an example of 21 shares XRP ETP, electronically traded product, right? We have ETFs and ETPs. Globally, ETPs are just more popular, electronically traded products. In the US, ETFs, electronically traded funds, those have become really the norm. So just to give you those two differences so you understand what we're talking about here, it says XRP ETPs, approximately 40 to 60 million assets under management based on recent Europe market data. Going deeper here, direct institutional investment, XRP has also recently attracted 200 million in institutional investment via.
So they got $200 million extra, which is lots of money, right, coming in. But everyone is building on XRPL, and you should too. And look at this. All of these big banks are joining in. So, man, you probably heard at least one of them, right? So a very big pump could be happening once these get out of testnet. Right now they are in testing phases. They're in very early phases before they get listed.
In-kind contributions largely motivated by anticipated ETF approval.
Have a great day. Having a good day. Why do you need 300, 3,300 saying you need a certain amounts vary? Well, the thing I'm hyped about most is the actual listing, right? That's happening in October. This is what really is happening. The economy is getting better. The whole system is getting better. And look what happened 1 year ago. XRP was 20 cents and it got scooped up so fast overnight the price doubled. So it's going to be harder and harder to actually afford XRP, like 1,000 XRP. So yeah, you can never get it for 1 cent anymore at this price point.
Finding futures-based US ETFs with allocated internationally physically backed ETPs and a major disclosed institutional injections. Expected US inflows, right? We talked about this a lot on this channel. There is a analyst at JP Morgan that believes the first 12 months could see 3 to 8 billion.
So I feel like also the long-term effects of of this institutional investment nobody's talking about. XRP getting listed is not just going to create one pump, it's going to create a sustainable long-form XRP pump for this. So yeah, more money pumping in.
Dollars coming into new XRP inflows. Remember, when they create these funds, they are basically selling shares of the funds to people. As they're selling those, they're buying XRP off the market to fund those products, okay? Yeah. And so if you have this new demand, a surge in demand for these products, they're going to be buying XRP off.
Seemingly, XRP is going to be its own ecosystem.
open market, that's going to create some type of flywheel effect. And that is where we're going to see a market cap multiplier. Remember, we're looking at anywhere between 100 and 600x, depending on inflows and outflows. That could be a big deal here. So $1 billion with a 100x multiplier is 100 billion in market cap. A 500x multiplier would be 500 billion in market cap. So could you imagine getting like $3 or $5 billion and having that 100x or 500x multiplier? We could be into the trillions of market cap for XRP in the blink of an eye.
That's good. I really like his, positivity. The issue with getting like 100 million or 1 trillion is a lot of people will still sell on the way out. A lot of people will sell when XRP hits $10. So you need way more inflows. So that's something I wanted to add for a Crypto Sensei video. Overall, it's going to be like hard to get here to 1 trillion without people selling.
Time and time again, I'm going to stand by it. JP Morgan analyst projects 4 to 8 billion. Other sources mention moderate 3 to 6 billion. Regardless, we'll take it. It's billions. Let's keep going. Riz says the legal shackles are off.
Yeah, so anything is good.
Let's play this.
What is really working in crypto at this moment? What is the biggest utility that we have at this moment in time in crypto?
I think, going back to, where we started out over a decade ago and really solving the cross-border payment, the payment challenge, enabling banks and financial institutions to move money around the globe is a real, even in 2025 today, it's still quicker for me to get on a plane and fly that cash to my aunt in Australia than it is to send an international wire. And so we are really kind of breaking down barriers, enabling these financial institutions to give their customers a much better experience. And whether or not that's through stablecoins or through XRP, being able to do that on a truly global basis, I think that is a transformation.
Literally, Live TV even mentioned XRP. They wouldn't even touch it, in last 5 years on the TV. It wasn't mentioned at all, except on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. And they're mentioning XRP as a payment system, next to stablecoins. So it's actually a pretty big competitor.
Shift in terms of how we think about traditional finance.
Remember, so with Bitcoin, you have a lot of questions, right? Especially from like the European Central Bank and other central banks in Europe wondering, is Bitcoin being used for money laundering or all kinds of kind of shadier things? That's why they don't really want to touch Bitcoin specifically. So you look at something like XRP, the central banks have all tested this technology. They know what it does. They know how it can enhance their capabilities to move value in between countries at the snap of a finger for little to no cost. If that doesn't have value in the future financial system, I don't know what does at this point, right? Yes, you have Swift GPI that has sped up.
I feel like people still are forced to use wire transfer, right? Pay $15 for a wire transfer or $10. That's absolutely crazy. $15 like for sending, and then it takes 2 days to arrive. And just recently this year, we abolished checks. We abolished we tried to get rid of them. Again, this was something that was used 2 centuries ago. So XRP is probably going to replace that and bring tons of money in.
Messaging and settlement, usually either in the first maybe hour or in the first 24 hours, but you still have an enormous cost that comes along with it. Banks are going to be looking at the old system or the new system. Do I save a ton of money and go with the new system, or do I keep having to pay these outlandish fees and go with the Swift system? I think it's going to be pretty obvious what some of these financial institutions are going to do and what their new business models are going to look like. So Bitcoin maxis, love to talk about XRP. We appreciate.
So get ready for instant payment transfers, and they are going to be powered by XRP around the world. Still the SEPA takes 1 day to 2 days. That's crazy to me. Hopefully we get XRP soon, and that's what would really pump up its price. Especially if banks would be forced to buy XRP. That would be pretty funny.
All the support that they have given our way, and it's just makes for good content. So I appreciate you. This says Bitcoin maxis can't stop talking about XRP. You better understand what you're holding. XRP is like Google in its early days. Let's play it.
Cross-border payments almost instantly. Without delays, without the fees of traditional banking, they can process billions of dollars in volume at a fraction of the current cost. Also, Trump has just signed the Genius Act, and that has moved, essentially it's taken their ability to utilize their technology, that's taken it from questioning stage to it's doable now. So there's a lot to that. I'm not going to get into it, but they've also recently applied for a bank license, which would allow them to settle payments with the Federal Reserve directly. So that would even intensify this ability to be this answer to the problem, right? So cross-border payments were at 190 trillion in 2023. So that's how much money was being sent between borders in 2023. Some have estimated that number is going to jump to 290 trillion, 100 trillion more by 2030. So there's going to be a huge, additional market for cross-border payments. And so somebody that could do it faster with less fees, it has a lot of market to cover, a lot of ground to cover. So here, this in summary, if we're in the early stages of crypto, there's going to be major foundational players. I believe Bitcoin is one of them. I think it's proven to be, and that they're going to outlast the rest. Think about back to the early stages of the internet in 1990, and think about Google, think about Yahoo. And obviously Yahoo is kind of fun. They've been slowly chipping away at their foundation over the years and been making stupid decisions, and they're falling, but Google, there have been major players. Well, I don't know. We're not going to get into that. That's just the research that I've done. It's kind of old now, but when it comes to Yahoo, is that they're not making good decisions. But there have been major players in the internet. There's going to be major players, essentially pillars in the crypto world. I believe XRP is one of them. XRP is currently the third largest cryptocurrency. And so it's like you've got Bitcoin, and I think Ethereum is number 2, and then XRP is number 3. And so
why don't these people invite somebody that knows this stuff onto their show to give them better information? Like XRP's number 3, Ethereum's number 2, Bitcoin's number 1. Yeah, just look at CoinMarketCap. That's some really good data that you guys are sharing here. Anyways, listen.
I feel like the point these guys are trying to make is every single coin will have its own utility, and XRP is going to do with the banks. There's going to be other coins that might work with, probably Amazon, but XRP is going to be known for having, being the one that does the payment transfers, while Bitcoin might be named as the one with store of value. That's the real difference right now that we are seeing with XRP. And it's a very, very bullish sentiment. Everyone is happy about XRP. I don't know one person that was calling its crash. It's not like the same effect as with Terra Luna Classic. This is when XRP will fly. So XRP flying, that would be really, really nice. I'm still waiting for XRP to fly up.
Earliest members of Ripple just put out a post talking about when he thinks XRP is going to fly. In this video,
we always have these coin price predictions, and then nothing happens the next day, right? So I am hopeful. But what do the experts know, and why would they share it with the public? That's my question. Like, if the experts know that XRP is going to $10 next month, why would they share this with the public, and how certain are they that it will happen? Why wouldn't they just bet their house and life savings on it? That's why crypto is always risky. You don't know what will happen. And I feel like a lot of these predictions usually are long term, like 50 to 70 years, just like people were predicting for 100K Bitcoin.
Talk about exactly what he said in his timeline for XRP's massive price appreciation, because guys, believe it or not, it's probably much sooner than many people are anticipating. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP. So whatever that's supposed to mean, take a look at
Western Union has just snaggled an all-cash deal to Ripple XRP ODL users announced in 2020. What? $500 million to the Ripple XRP Intermex wire to capture growth in all America? Is that a $500 million deal for XRP?
this. Earlier today, we just had Western Union actually purchased in an all-cash deal by Intermex. Now, what's so interesting about this is if you've been in the XRP community for a really long time, there has been a ton of speculation about Western Union switching to ODL and using...
So yeah, Western Union just sold out, which means like, weren't they like competitor to XRP anyway? Intermex, bear with me, Intermex is connected to XRP. Like, this is some deep dive right here.
XRP. Now, while that never actually happened, Intermex is an ODL user and does use XRP for cross-border payments. So it looks like through one way or another, we are going to have Western Union, very likely, using XRP for cross-border payments via Ripple's ODL service. I just thought this was really interesting because there's been a ton of speculation on sort of will Western Union adopt something like XRP, and it looks like they will, whether they liked it or not.
I feel like everyone will have to adapt. Even like the biggest companies have to adapt with what's happening next. They don't have a choice if the big whale that is XRP is coming into basically the community of fast transfers, cheap transfers. They will have to adapt, or maybe my potential guess is XRP will start buying these companies for much cheaper and try to use their technology, their members, and expand even more. It is not a crazy thing to ask.
Now, the bigger lesson here is Intermex is an ODL user, and whether or not they were a bigger company before or whatever, one of my theses is the players willing to adopt the new technology and upgrade to more powerful solutions will be the winners over the long run. And this is just a great example of a company that adopted Ripple's ODL service, now has extra money to go out there and purchase their competitors and deepen the network effect. Now more people are becoming ODL users and using XRP for cross-border payments globally. And while we haven't seen necessarily that Western Union will be fully converted to using Ripple's ODL services, I have a very good feeling they certainly will. When you're delivering better, faster, cheaper technology that solves a fundamental problem, that technology is naturally adopted, and the people who don't adopt it are left in the dust and ultimately either forced to adapt or will fall by the wayside. I think that's essentially exactly what we're seeing right now, and it's just so fun.
Yeah, it feels also like a lot of these companies are selling out. Like PayPal has been adapting. PayPal just accepted crypto. A lot of these companies went with XRP. We just acquired $200 million deal. So that is another thing that XRP just won. Literally, one of the stablecoin sellers sold to XRP for $200 million. And it's just the start. I feel like XRP is slowly going to get a bigger market share as they get, especially as they get more money in October from the ETF. Mark my words. When a bear market hits, all these companies will get cheaper, which means XRP's market dominance, they will get more employees, more market shares, some more money. After the banks, they will get more capital, which is lots of money coming in.
Funny for someone like myself who've seen this kind of speculation go on forever, finally see Western Union essentially become an ODL user through an acquisition. Wasn't expected.
So yeah, did they just join XRP right now? That would be pretty crazy if they did.
It wasn't how I expected it to happen, but nevertheless, super interesting to see. With that said, though, I want to move into the main topic of this video, which is actually Bob Way talking about when he thinks XRP is going to fly.
So yeah, that's a crazy thing, like calling when XRP is going to fly. Like if you're psychic, it's going to be very hard to actually see it because nobody knows. Nobody knows when XRP will explode. We have certain dates, though, that you can say XRP could potentially pump from that matter. You can't say 100% because with crypto, there's always risk involved. And again, none of this is personal financial advice. But the important factor you have here is there is so much potential for people coming in and talking about, these potential dates like the ETF listings. What we saw past in the history is when Ethereum rose, after the ETF listing, so will XRP, right? So it makes total sense.
Don't know, Bob Way was one of the earliest members at Ripple and has been an XRP
earliest
bull
member
the
of
entire
Ripple.
time.
That's nice.
Whenever people like Bob Way speak up, I always think it's super important we listen because he's one of the people who had the vision of XRP and the XRP ledger prior to most of us even knowing what XRP or Ripple even was. So clearly he has a lot of very advanced thoughts in his ideas of how this entire industry is going to play out. And he's seen a lot more than the vast majority of us will ever see because he's been here the entire time. So I want to share this conversation that he had with...
This is like a very rare find. LUSD and Ripple's banking license application is key to new value creation. The lawsuit finality is key to smoothing that process. And he said that August 10th, and literally the next day we had the lawsuit over. I'm very bullish over the next few months. The next 12 months. So this is literally the Ripple ex-employee or, someone very connected to Ripple saying he's bullish for Ripple next 12 months. And so am I. So am I, Bob. when you start to see Ripple talking about banking licenses and stablecoin creation, again, things that cost, a lot of money and were impossible before, in non-US countries, it will clearly become clear how the plan comes together. And finally, Ripple, that has been building for many years, can now finalize it. As Ripple will become a global bank, that's what it's aiming for. With banking license in most major countries, Ripple stablecoins in most major currencies, and it's all run through XRPL as a global bank, basically. So what the point is here is Ripple's development is finally coming in fruition. And we have been waiting this for a long time. And the banking license and all of the stuff, all the partnerships that have been happening will pay off in the next 12 months, according to Bob Way.
Another X user earlier today, because I think it paints a very interesting picture and something that is extremely bullish for XRP. So this user right here asks, so when does XRP fly, Bob, and realize your vision and hopes from years ago? Bob Way then answered, he said, ROUSD and Ripple's banking license application is key to new value creation. The lawsuit finally ended and is key to smoothing out that process. I am very bullish over the next 12 months. He then goes on to say, when you start to see Ripple talking about banking licenses and stablecoin creation in non-US countries, it will quickly become clear how the plan comes together. This other user came in and said, as in Ripple will become a global bank with a banking license in most major countries with ROUSD stablecoins in the most major currencies, and it's all run through the XRPL as a global neobank. So a little bit broken there, but I think you get the point. He says, yes, almost spot on. So Bob Way is saying, yes, spot on to Ripple becoming essentially a global neobank through their...
Yeah, so he's saying that Ripple is going to basically control, or not control, but is going to manage. He's going to be basically the manager for all these big transactions. Now, I feel like they already have a big key partnerships, which means other banks could be joining up because they already have the biggest banks in play. They already have the big banks lined up. So what will happen is the small banks will see, hey, these big banks are working with XRP. Let us work with them as well. And that's exactly what will happen. If banks are resistant to XRPL businesses and are resistant to Ripple becoming a bank, who are Ripple's main customers for XRPL services? I mean, bear with me. This is kind of hard to understand. But this grand vision takes scheme, still banks. I feel like the main customers will just be like businesses, employees, anyone in crypto, is going to be using XRP Ledger. It's not only bank partnerships. Again, there's going to be government contracts, which you can't do on Ethereum. And that is the big money coming in for basically Ripple.
Banking application RLU and RLUSD. He then goes on to say, the reason Ripple needs to become a bank is because existing banks are/have been too cautious to bank XRP ledger-based businesses. This is an analogous problem to legal cannabis businesses' inability to find banking. So the user goes,
then the XRPL shortcuts in the rest of the international banking system entirely. XRP purposes the bank is just on-off ramp for consumers. Again, banks will just be a small part of Ripple's big money machine that we are predicting.
On to say, so if banks are resistant to bank X,
like people are seeing that the XRP is already entering the RWA space, so real world asset, which is another big money making machine for XRP. It's not just going to be the banks. The banks are just the start of these big partnerships. The ETFs, all of this news is the start for the next 12 months. This is what I've been telling you guys.
XRP ledger businesses and are too resistant to Ripple becoming a bank. Who are Ripple's main customers for the XRP ledger services once this grand vision takes shape? Still banks. It's a very interesting point. He's saying, look, if Ripple is going to become a major bank, right? If they're filing for this banking license, if they have RLUSD, if they're tokenizing all these assets, is Ripple just eating their customers? Is Ripple becoming the bank? Is Ripple going to replace all these players with the XRP?
So Ripple, this is one common misconception. Ripple does not need to be a bank, to need the banking license. It helps for their own transactions. But again, XRP L or XRP Ledger is just going to be for the banks to basically buy and, buy this crypto in and out, or buy money in and out of their machines. XRPL shortcuts the rest of the international banking system entirely. So just like Western Union, like sending money, Coinbase, Bitstamp, all of these use a bank, but not the banks themselves, right? So it's just going to be a system, again, the ledger, and all of this is going to be used by XRP, which XRP is going to be burning millions.
Fees. It is the customers and real world businesses that own all the money and generate all the value. So banks are essentially just a critical piece of the system that all these real businesses need to use to run essentially their business. He said for XRP Ledger purposes, the bank is just the on and off ramp for customers to swap fiat in and out of the XRP Ledger. The XRP Ledger shortcuts the rest of the international banking system entirely. Two well-known examples of MSBs: Western Union / MoneyGram, Coinbase / Bit.
Split into two main customer functions. Coinbase is off on the ramp for fiat. It's how you transfer your banking money into and out of the system. Coinbase provides a mechanism, centralized exchange for exchanging fiat for XRP. So this is the main thing, is people, misunderstand that Ripple is going to be its own bank. Ripple is going to help these banks make these transactions faster. And it's basically going to be this big machine that's going to run behind the banks. It's not going to be its own bank in a sense. So yeah, it's doing something. It's acting as their bank. Any business can easily serve an on-off ramp function. So XRP Ledger only needs on-off ramp function, as XRP Ledger already has built-in decentralized exchange. Really awesome though. I hope you all found this thread useful. Sorry there's so many forks, but there's so many interesting questions, right? And there's going to be a lot happening for Ripple in the near future.
Ledger only needs the on and off ramp function, as the XRP Ledger already has a built-in DEX. So this is the most important part. So by Ripple acting as their bank, any new business can easily serve that on and off ramp function. So I know that was a lot, but let's break it down here because it's so important. What Bob Way is saying is, for the longest time, the biggest reason why the XRP Ledger couldn't get to super large mainstream adoption is because essentially it's been cut off from liquidity. Because none of the banks have been interested in adopting blockchain technology as rapidly as many of us want, essentially it's been really hard to get money in and out of the XRP Ledger. Essentially, you need to go get a bank to agree to help you put money into the XRP Ledger. But in order to do that, you need that bank okay with the activity, and regulations have slowed that down, and banks are very legacy minded and they don't really understand this stuff. So you have all these problems. But with Ripple becoming a bank, you no longer need these banks in order to on and off ramp liquidity into the XRP Ledger.
So this is the banking license that we were talking about. This banking license saves a lot of money. It's not a bank of itself, like Ripple being its own bank, but it's literally saving themselves tons of time. Instead of working with other banks, they can, do some licenses themselves. They can do some stuff without asking permission from other banks. I know it's very hard to understand, but just to repeat myself here, is right now Ripple has been approved for its own license. So it can do all of the hard stuff itself. It can be fully autonomous on the Ripple ledger.
And onboard trillions directly into this ecosystem. This is a huge lift that I had never even wrapped my head around. And it is a massive part of Ripple's banking license. It allows them to inject infinite amounts of liquidity into this ecosystem without relying on other counterparties that might not be so progressive in this change taking place.
And again, once you maybe you can get a few transactions approved, but getting 15,000 a day approved transactions is probably going to be much harder. Maybe the banks won't allow it and want to check everything. And that way the XRP ledger wouldn't work. But this literally shows them that it would work, and it would work for long term.
Now, taking this full circle, this is essentially exactly what we're seeing and what we talked about with the Western Union intermix thing. Essentially, Western Union was slow to adapt. And what happened? They ended up getting beaten by some of their competitors who adapted quicker. Ripple is going to be doing the same exact thing with these banking institutions. The banks that are proactive and are willing to work with these changes and adopt this new technology are going to be the ones to succeed.
So here's your answer why the big banks are actually working with Ripple right now, the most expensive ones or the biggest ones with most users, is because they want to be the first in the future of technology. Ripple has been building their product for the last 13 years, 15 years, and now they finally build a product. A lot of these companies, old ones that are close-minded, will go bankrupt.
Who continue to push against it will simply be acquired by the bigger and better players. The people who embrace technology and allow the technology to make their businesses exponentially more powerful are going to be in a position to dominate this future financial system. What Ripple did is they just took a massive shortcut. They said, you know what? No one's moving fast enough. We are going to get the banking license and we are going to on-ramp the liquidity directly to the XRP ledger. You can either get on board or you can be left in the dust.
I feel like Ripple has like many plans to, and needs many steps before it can become, $10, $15 is the most important factor. This is just one of the few new steps that Ripple is going to go towards their $10 plan, right? And one of these steps was winning the lawsuit. The other step is actually becoming its own bank. The third step, ETFs in October or September or whatever it is. So yeah, that's the big money machine for XRP. Mickey did a very good video on that. But yeah, it does seem like XRP is pushing everything and everything's going according to plan. That's why the next 12 months are going to be absolutely amazing for XRP. Just like the XRP ex-CEO said, there's a new XRP update that a lot of people aren't talking about. XRP huge update. Let's check this out.
It's an emergency update if you...
I love emergencies because usually they mean they're important. Smash that like button, by the way, guys, if you haven't already. And welcome to the show, the Lance Central Show.
guys hold XRP, the market is now experiencing some sell pressure. And there's a particular reason why, because a major event is taking place tomorrow morning. And in this video, we have to talk about it and much more. So make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up and stick around to the end of this XRP video. So I warned you all, tomorrow, CPI is going to bring volatility. That's very normal.
Yeah, so the unemployment rate is the lowest it has ever been in crypto history, or in history overall. It's never easier to get a job. This means XRP is now in a prime momentum to actually go to all-time highs. But of course, we have other data, not just unemployment. We have inflation on our mind. But right now, everything is so bullish. Unemployment rate at like 4.7%, which also means, students and stuff like that. So the inflation is what people are really worried about. M2 money supply growing, which basically means that a new wave of market pumps could be happening shortly.
Sometimes a lot.
So yeah, M2 money supply is basically what the big banks, how much money they hold. And again, if they hold more money, it means they are very, very bullish. They're stocking up on buying actual stuff.
Whales that come
So yeah, it is delayed for a few months though.
together and they all just panic sell everything before a major data event because they are fearful and they're uncertain. They don't know what could take place tomorrow. But so far, tomorrow we are going to have CPI 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and this is when we are going to see the economic data and see how inflation has been doing. So we have a small sell-off. The market has been pumping. It's still very high.
So yeah, inflation, it might affect the short term, but the long term, who knows how it will affect, right? We're waiting for all-time highs here, and potentially, just like how the markets are moving, it's very certain that it's gonna not affect the long-term prices that bad, right? Because if everything else is good, even if inflation goes up just slightly, it's not gonna be bad as 2021, 2022.
Actually bullish, because that means that the data event is most likely going to end up being bullish. So they like to shake people out before a big bullish move. Take a look at Bitcoin here.
That's exactly what happens. That's why people have been complaining at selling at $2.70 and it went immediately back to 3.14. Might not seem a lot, but like 15% is actually adding up. If you're a whale, that is $15,000 for $100,000 or whatever. But again, crypto comes with big risk, and a lot of people don't want to have the stress and just sell at certain price point. I think it's very scary though. Like what we're seeing right now is we are in very early stages of whales taking their profit, which is exactly what we saw with XRP in 2022 during the lawsuit, is whales bought and sold very big amounts of XRP. And it's on data. You can check it up. They bought a very big amounts and they sold it back. And now what they did is just before the pump, a lot of these whales bought at 30 cents and are still holding. A lot of them sold at $3, but slowly but surely we are reaching, another momentum.
Bitcoin ended up breaking out, almost making all-time highs last night. But Bitcoin has broken out and we are now in this retest area, this key support, which Bitcoin should hold. If Bitcoin rejects and breaks lower here, then we're probably going to see a much further correction, but everything is still looking bullish. And we are now going to be cutting rates, so many bullish catalysts that are taking place for crypto. This is not the time to be panic selling, especially it's only the 11th of this month and we have a lot more days to go. And guess what? The bull market, we only have so much time left. And everybody knows that investors and traders who know the 4-year cycle, they're still loading up, they're still buying, and we're still bullish. This guy here is calling for a $12 XRP. If you zoom out here, you can see XRP is breaking out already in this bull flag. If you zoom out and aren't so micro zoomed.
So the thing I don't like about these, $12 XRP is you can't call for $12 XRP, but the issue is it really going to happen? Because every time we called for $5, it still has not happened. So this is a technical analysis flag, but it does not mean it will actually go to $12. But in theory, once we get the burns, once we get everything, approved, in theory, we could be seeing a very big momentum, a very big spike, which makes a lot of people very happy. Again, we're trying to reach $4, but just imagine the first run we had from 50 cents to $3.22, and it grew very fast. So what is preventing from us going from $4 to $12, right? Again, if Bitcoin can reach $200,000, XRP can reach $7, in my opinion.
And the market is still very bullish, guys. Nothing to panic about. And Bitcoin is trending. We have recovered this dip. We are pushing higher. Ethereum is trending, breaking out of a 4-year resistance level. Total One today, the Total One market cap made a new all-time high today. So
yeah, never has crypto been so expensive or, so much valued. And XRP definitely helped with that, in my opinion. But we're still waiting for retail investors to come back. And once they do, which I believe it's going to be later this year, like Q4 and 1, 2, 3 months, somewhere around this time. I'm not exactly sure when or why, but already retail investors are coming back and we should welcome them with open arms, because this is going to add probably at least 1 to 3 trillion to the market. Again, that's just my speculation, and crypto investing is always risky, but it's a very important factor. A lot of people don't forget about is 2021 we saw 4 trillion, but that was mostly retail investors, and now they have left. Now we are seeing so many people coming back to crypto, but we have such a bigger potential of companies coming in and buying XRP. Little companies which have way more money than retail investors.
It's very, very bullish. It shows the total crypto market cap has reached over $4 trillion today. That is a major milestone. That shows cryptos are growing, cryptos are pumping. The amount of people in crypto is continuing to push higher. Now make sure you guys are in my private community. We are making a fortune. You guys can follow and copy all of mine. And this is now our support.
So look at this, support level $2.70. I said it's never gonna drop below 3, and I still stand by that. It will drop to 2.7. So I feel like we could be seeing another growth in that aspect.
So this breakout level here is our support, and that is a bullish sign for the future of XRP. Technically. So we are breaking out. This is just a pullback, a consolidation period before the next leg higher, which I believe is imminent, with Ethereum breaking out, making almost all-time highs, Bitcoin pushing up higher, the stock market.
So yeah, exactly as I predicted, August being a bit wavy. He's calling like December or November. I feel like there's going to be way more waves, way better in September to November. Like, at least historically, that's when the prices went up the most. So what's preventing XRP from going this time? Again, it's been literal August, which usually isn't that much of a pump. and XRP is still above $3.
Market's pushing higher. Everything is pushing higher. Just bullish, bullish, bullish news everywhere. No bearish news. That leads me to believe that we are going to be pushing higher and much higher, in my opinion, not financial advice. So these are the key levels that you want to pay attention to for XRP. So XRP has come and rejected again this key level, which we have talked about. We have rejected 333, but once we start to break and hold above it, it's going to keep trying to tap this level. Once we break and hold above $3.33 for XRP, this is when I believe the next leg is going to begin. The next leg will for sure be confirmed when XRP starts breaking and holding above $3.70 with volume. That is the key. If you see a massive candle pump above this level here, that is the volume I'm talking about. But this is when we're probably going to see the next leg higher, $4 to $5, $7. It can come very quickly. These pumps, once we start breaking out and going parabolic, they happen very fast, very strong. And if you were not positioned beforehand, you're not going to be able to catch the ride. So you need to be positioned at a discount level.
So yeah, I feel like XRP, every time it tries to get lower, the whales are buying. And if it goes below $3, why is it not dropping? Is because it is very clear. The whales and someone in my mind, maybe big institutions, we don't know who, is buying the supply under exactly when it hits under $3, right? It's a very big difference. And usually people buy because they believe the price is going to go up. Usually they buy because they believe it's under tapped. So right now what we're seeing is, they're buying and they don't let you know. It's just what I'm seeing right now. Someone is buying. We don't know who. It's definitely helping you out, guys, because if he keeps buying above $3, it literally means that the new support level is $3. Even if you sell it, a lot of these people will buy. So let that sink in. You didn't hear anywhere else, but there is probably a massive, wave of people, whales. Maybe it could be some retail investors who keep buying above $3 because they believe a new rally is starting. And when a crypto that was in 2017 only a few weeks above $3 is now at $3, all the time, this is a very bullish pattern, in my opinion. Like this is very bullish because imagine, guys, like what happens with other cryptos? You see people sell, it goes from 50 cents that it goes to like $2, for other cryptos, and everyone sells. The price, like the whales dump everything. They don't believe in the future, but someone believes in the future here and believes it will go above $3. So yeah, just let that sink in. It's been months since it's been $3 and it's still here. And it's probably going to stay that way, at least above $2. I don't believe it's ever going to go below 2 anymore, especially after the lawsuit is over. It is looking very bullish.
Which we did reach a discount around 270, 280, 290. This was the time, the ultimate time to buy. And that's when I let you know to buy in my community. So what it does look like is going to happen. We've just flushed very violently. Like, look at this Fart coin. I'm holding this on spot. These Solana coins, they just literally dumped today, overnight 20.
That's what I'm showing you guys, 20%. Again, and when XRP dumps, it literally gets bought out so easily. So this shows me that a whale has sold a very large supply, compared to XRP. When a whale sells, others buy.
% without any bad news, and the market's still relatively holding strong. They are trying to flush people out, shake people out. And this just,
I feel like 20%, is not just retail investor. It's like a big whale selling.
One coin out of many coins, for example. They're trying to shake people out before the next massive move. You guys better get ready. And also, make sure you guys are using my indicator, Algo Sniper.
So yeah, people have sold to sell, which is absolutely awesome. Miles G did it again.
So
awesome
it's official.
XRP, this is ridiculous and will never stop. What will never stop? XRP will never stop. And that's exactly what I've been saying, you guys. SEC and Ripple jointly dismiss appeals, ending their five-year legal fight. Just came 15 minutes ago. So smash that like button if you guys haven't already. I'll keep you guys up with more news.
It's really been about roughly 3 days now since we got the big update that the SEC and Ripple jointly dismissed the appeals. This ended that 5-year legal fight, and the case is basically over at this point.
The most expensive crypto case probably in history, costing hundreds of millions of dollars, is now over. Again, all of this money is going to flow back into XRP or Ripple.
Now, we also got another big update regarding this, which was this one from Crypto Law US, and we'll go over this here in a moment.
The SEC have fought this at the very turn at the Torres decision, and now they've formally embraced it. So bad actor basically means is, banks telling XRP that they don't want to work with them because of the lawsuit. And Ripple won. So this bad actor stuff that the banks won't work with them has now been thrown out, and Ripple had to fight hard, because if this was true, banks could say, all these contracts we had for 2025, 2026, well, they're void because you did some bad stuff. We don't want to work with you anymore. Well, this was just confirmed to be thrown out, and this is, now over. This was a very important factor for crypto.
But the main thing that I actually want to talk about is the market opportunity here for XRP. Okay, we've been seeing a ton of FUD. And I mean a crazy amount of FUD thrown towards XRP's side, from extremely large Bitcoin maxis to even those that, might not even be Bitcoin maxis. They just simply hate XRP. And it's because they're actually in competition with Ripple. And it's not like Ripple's in competition with them. No, they're just trying to beat Ripple to the punch here. But the problem is that they're failing to do so. Caitlin Long is a perfect example of this type of person. Obviously, her business model is kind of different compared to Ripple's, but she's still trying to be, in the same position where she wants to become a, digital asset bank with custodian.
So yeah, the thing is, this is the issue. There's a lot of good products like XRP, but nobody has these bank partnerships, and they want to see Ripple fail. Because if Ripple, goes bankrupt or whatever, it will not, they would get the market share, right? They would get a major market share with work with these banks, because banks are forced to work with someone as long as they have the product. If anyone would buy XRP, XRP is literally worth billions and billions of dollars. That is why right now there's a lot of great projects that are starting up just like XRP, but they will need 10 years to catch up. They will need 5 years to catch up, because Ripple needed 15 years to build up where it is today, and it's going to take time.
Go to a bank, and again, it's just not working out, and she doesn't like the fact that Ripple also applied for a license, which will come up in conversation in this video as well. But the craziest part about all of this is just how much shade is still getting tossed towards Ripple's side of this space, and even XRP as well, 5 years later, right? Let's actually just go back real quick to the fact that this case is now wrapped up. I'm sure that a lot of you can remember back to when this case got announced, almost everyone was talking down on XRP and talking down on Ripple. A lot of people celebrated the lawsuit. In fact, Vitalik Buterin is an individual that did celebrate the SEC case against Ripple. It's crazy how far we have come, but the fact that this is still an ongoing thing, the fact that we still have, so much hate tossed towards, XRP and tossed towards Ripple, it's shocking to me that we are still this far behind. And what I mean by that is I still think that it's crazy.
So there's a community of people who want to see XRP fail, and that's completely fine. There's always going to be communities on the other side. The most important factor here is what we can take from here. Ripple still has plenty of good updates. Again, the wave why I'm hyped is there's so much positive news, probably, 10 dozen of news that we haven't even heard about yet because it's ongoing. And here's the thing. I feel like in the next 3 months, all of this news will be revealed and send a massive new hype wave.
That we still have this infighting going on in this space. I don't know why we can't just celebrate the fact that a company like Ripple got past the SEC. I don't know why we can't celebrate the fact that XRP, a digital currency that everyone should have the right to buy, sell, and trade, just got past one of the most, incredible battles. Obviously, in terms of incredible, I mean the fact that we got through this. It was a historical battle that will probably be talked about for, months and years going forward. It's something that we're going to be looking back on in time. I just don't know why we can't celebrate that we got past this as
Again, this is a lawsuit that also helps the whole of crypto, not just XRP. This helps literally everyone in crypto, guys. This also defines what a security is. Ripple had to pay the price of all the lawyer fees, but with that being over, everyone can move on. And there's still people who hope XRP crashes to $2. There's also people who hope Ripple goes back to 50 cents so they can buy a large majority of it. But again, this might never happen. This is just my personal opinion, but we haven't seen any indicators of that happening.
an industry, because Ripple fighting the SEC also provided the entire industry with major wins as well. But nobody wants to talk about that. But I bring all this up because we also just got a big update, which was just added to our document library. SEC order waiving bad actor disqualification of Ripple. The SEC Gov has fought this at every turn after the Torres decision, and now they formally embraced it. The winning keeps on happening. And for those that don't know exactly what this means, here we have from Johnny Deaton. What this means, Ripple can continue to raise money in the private markets. One might even argue it's business as usual, as if the lawsuit against...
So yeah, 125 million fine is probably nothing for Ripple. They can get the money very fast back, especially with this, being approved. This is a very big thing because Ripple is now gaining a lot of money. Just yesterday, they gained $200 million, the big ones from investments.
Against Ripple, and the $125 million fine never happened. And this is exactly what we wanted. And the best part about all of this, right? The best part about all of this is how this affects XRP going forward. A lot of people will say, all right, well, that means that more sell pressure for XRP is going to happen. The main thing about Ripple with ROUSD, for an example, is that ROUSD generates them revenue now. That means that Ripple is not going to have to sell XRP the way that they did in previous times.
So yeah, that crashed the price from like 50 cents every time we got a rally. They had to sell 500 million of XRP, which literally destroyed the markets. This is why you see XRP above $3 now, because they have no reason to use their XRP if they are getting these partnerships that were promised to them, which they couldn't do because of the lawsuit, right? So it is very big amounts of money now coming in, and they are not forced to sell their token because most projects, to work out, they need to sell their token, to operate. But what we're seeing here is Ripple went fully self-sustainable. And this is why people love to use it. It's not going to affect people's pockets, right?
But what's crazier about this is now Ripple is completely cleared, which means let's go back to Ripple applying for a national bank charter, which is why everyone is starting to flip on Ripple again. They didn't think that this case would be wrapped up this quick. They didn't think that, and by the way, in terms of, it being wrapped up this quick, I don't think that they thought that this case was ever going to get wrapped up. I don't think that they ever thought that Ripple was going to win. But now that Ripple did, and now that the case is behind us, we look at some of the recent moves. We go back to July 2nd, where Ripple applied for that national bank charter license from the OCC. If this does get approved, they would have both state via the New York Department of Financial Services and the federal oversight, a new and unique benchmark for trust in the stablecoin market. This would put Ripple and ROUSD in a completely different category.
I feel like the lawsuit also changed Ripple a lot. Ripple stands out for putting regulation first. The lawsuit literally postponed Ripple, but it did not stop it. It just set it back 5 years. So Ripple applying, now for a national bank, when we saw this news, the price, of course, went up, which is good. We have been waiting that for a long time. It's somehow Ripple is still, kicking. And all this good news is actually good for people who came in now, because right now the prices went up because of that, because now they can go what they had to put on pause before, at XRP, they can double down now and actually make it live. Like all the partnerships, all the big money moves, they are now live, which makes Ripple, go from 50 cents to basically $3 as soon as the SEC lawsuit is over. It's a very big moment in history.
Same exact way that I believe that they get the green light on the Fed master account that they also applied for. And remember, this also unlocks access to RLUSD reserves being held directly with the Fed.
So yeah, basically it was like a safety lock if they did not sign it, right? If they did not win, it was like a safety lock and they couldn't do anything. But now that it was done, they can literally join in and go, double down on everything they wanted to do. And literally they announced it just as the lawsuit was over. Again, as the lawsuit was over, they announced it, applying for National Bank. They couldn't be a bank because everybody thought it was a security, and it was not.
That I do think is going to really set the bar extremely high for any stablecoin issuer in and around the US. On top of this, we go over here. This is what I mean by Bitcoin maxis that cannot stop talking about XRP.
XRP is down 86% from its all-time high in 2018. It's unlikely to ever recover. And while this is true, it's because, Bitcoin is winning. Bitcoin had a huge lawsuit. Again, I don't feel like we're going to get this, Bitcoin price levels ever for XRP, but it is an unfair playing field, right? If someone has a big lawsuit and the other one is the first crypto to ever be made, who do you think is going to win? Of course, the first crypto, Bitcoin is going to be the #1 winner. It makes total sense.
XRP is down 86% from its all-time high in 2018. It's unlikely to ever recover. And this is the XRP Bitcoin pair from all-time highs to today.
Again, look at this spike down. It's not realistic. Especially, look, this is 2020 is when the lawsuit happened, 2025. But look at the lawsuit being over. This is when the lawsuit happened. This is the lawsuit being over. So I feel like we could go in higher ranges as well compared to Bitcoin.
And it's crazy because even XRP Mickle said they are so afraid of XRP that they won't even use the all-time XRP Bitcoin chart. They need to manipulate the data because they hate the truth. The truth is, for the vast majority of XRP's history, you were better off buying XRP than Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, this is true.
It's just like during the lawsuit. If you bought after the lawsuit, you would get more gains. But if you held, you would be back, same gains as Bitcoin.
Like when we think about what's happening here, there's been so much manipulation around these comparisons between Bitcoin and XRP. The problem with these Bitcoin maxis is they fear something that can actually be utilized at scale. They fear something that actually has utility because their precious Bitcoin, I hate to break it to you guys, but Bitcoin has no utility. People think that it does. And yeah, sure, can you make transactions on the Bitcoin network? Sure you can, but why would you?
I feel like Bitcoin is always going to win because it's store of value. Like, billionaires buy it for holding instead of digital gold. Gold doesn't really have value anymore. It used to be used in armor and whatever, but right now it's just not even used in materials, right? You can use other materials. But here's where Bitcoin really wins. Look at Amazon. Amazon being the first, it's always getting used. Same with Bitcoin. But then there's going to be tokens like XRP that will actually, serve and finish a lot of stuff. And that's where, a lot of people will decide to buy XRP. Because, while Bitcoin can't be developed, or I don't know about Bitcoin Lightning, don't know anything about that, but you can have XRP, 10 years down the line being more developed than today. And that's a very powerful move, especially when it's a real life company. It's basically like buying shares, unless not really.
Why would you ever want to? When you have something like XRP, when you have something like Hedera, or even Stellar. I mean, guys, it's just ridiculous to me that people still, praise Bitcoin. I appreciate what Bitcoin has done for the space. It opened the doors of opportunity for assets like XRP to become a reality. But I'm tired of hearing these Bitcoin maxis continue to go on these rants about how bad XRP is, but then you tell them like, hey, guess what? How about we scale some transactions on the Bitcoin network? All of a sudden, that becomes a problem because again, Bitcoin can't scale. Scalable use cases do not live on Bitcoin. On top of that, the store of value narrative can only be shilled so hard to the point where we, become, aware that guess what? The Bitcoin store of value narrative is the only thing that they can actually hold on to. That's the only thing that they continue to praise about Bitcoin.
The thing is, I really feel like Bitcoin is very strong right now because it has the backing of the institutions, has the backing of the government, has the backing of ETF. It's always going to be number one. But just, there's people hating on XRP since 2018. And that's what I've been noticing since the lawsuit being out there, because people are afraid that XRP, they don't see a lot of value. And that's true in 2014 for XRP when it was getting started out. But guys, it's 11 years and some people still hate XRP when it literally launched so many products and the richest banks work with it. I feel like a lot of people have changed sides. They went from hating XRP to actually buying a small amount because they see, wow, in 11 years, XRP literally added utility to crypto. That's a very powerful move. Bitcoin cannot do that. Bitcoin cannot add extra utility. Maybe companies can, but XRP, it can. That's why XRP might be expanding worldwide, in my opinion. The cap for XRP is 7 billion people. Everybody's going to use bank transfers, right?
Is store of value. This is why they are so fearful of XRP, because they know at some point in time XRP can flip Bitcoin. It's still possible. Even right now, when we think about the comparison in the last year of gains, XRP is severely outperforming both Ethereum and Bitcoin. This is what
457% a year. Guys, if you tell me one thing that grows 457% a year, I don't know what to tell you. But this is the lawsuit over, which gives it more hype. 91% Bitcoin up and Ethereum 64% up. But still, guys, nothing comes close. Stellar comes close and Sui comes close. And they're both US companies. And it's exactly as I predicted. Like, US companies get growing stronger. So yeah, guys, let that sink in with what's happening with crypto right now. XRP being the strongest, even, Hedera and other coins coming in close. They're not as stable as XRP, in my opinion, even though they're US-based companies.
Why they are terrified. And now that we see the last obstacle holding XRP back removed, yeah, they better fear it. They better be aware that XRP can quickly become a very dominant force in this space. But it's the same exact thing that I've been saying for years.
These are the competitors, but not really, because they're also US-based companies, by the way. So this is the most important factor, is all of these like 300, 400%, they're doing the similar thing as XRP, but they don't have the same partnerships. But that's why they've been growing with XRP. They're much more risky though, because if you look at market cap, 13, 14 billion versus 200 billion. Again, which one is going to crash if the markets go back? It's bad. It's going to be the 13 billion. Like, people will still hold XRP.
Years now. Even recently, back in January, I said, if you think the Bitcoin maxis are crying now because they wore, just imagine what they will do when the fall.
Yeah, so gold is number one conductor of electric. That's another part. But like, a lot of materials have not been used for gold. So yeah, Bitcoin does have maybe right now more value than gold, I would say. I'm not too much sure about gold. I was just using it as an example. But the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of these cryptocurrencies like XRP can make value. XRP ETFs approved again. I've been calling about XRP. XRP flipping Ethereum again. This I don't think will happen because right now it's a very strong market. But I feel like both Ethereum and XRP will go up in price, right? US banks announced they will use XRP. Again, XRP will be used for burns. Clear path to rally and potentially flipping Bitcoin. This is going to be a very hard factor to do it, This is where I didn't agree. Like, flipping Bitcoin is going to be way, way harder. Do I think it has more like utility than Bitcoin? Yeah, but flipping Bitcoin is going to be hard. Even if it has more utility, nothing beats the number one crypto token. Utility becomes the main driver of value. This is what I've been calling, guys, for 6 months now. Utility being the number one thing, and US-based companies. And you can look at the charts, 350% growth, as I called it.
Following happens. XRP ETFs approved and begin trading. This is something to look forward to. XRP flips Ethereum. Again, XRP has flipped Ethereum in the past. Banks use Ripple's custody solution for various use cases, including tokenization, because SAB 121 was repealed. We already know banks are using Ripple's custody solution today. DZ Bank is a perfect example. US banks announced that they will use XRP. We have yet to see this yet, but I'm sure at some point in time,
They're already like doing the RippleNet or whatever it's called. So that's one thing they are improving. Like RippleNet is going to be a big thing for banks.
US banks will be tapped in with XRP through Ripple. XRP begins to clear a path to rally against them, potentially flipping Bitcoin. This is still possible. Utility becomes the main driver of value, proving how ridiculous the store of value claim is for a volatile asset like Bitcoin.
The thing is, XRP still doesn't have the ETFs. It's never going to have the same inflows. Literally, they have Michael Saylor for Bitcoin, but there is a chance.
Maxis can continue to push baseless claims. However, this space has dramatically changed over the years, supporting the utility narrative even more. The fear, hate, and jealousy on the timeline are all the proof you need to understand what's happening and what's coming. Enjoy the show. And yes, this is clear. This is exactly what's happening. They hate XRP. They are jealous of XRP. They fear XRP. I even said something similar back in February where I quoted a post. This post is now unavailable. I wish that it was. I wish I could show you guys this post because, again, it was just ridiculous at the time. But I said here that it's funny how Ripple and XRP have been living rent-free in all the heads of these haters for years. I mean, think about how crazy of a journey it's been. Bitcoin and Ethereum maxis call XRP the banker's coin, and they say that it's anti-crypto. The SEC announces a lawsuit against Ripple and XRP, crashes. All the Bitcoin and Ethereum maxis laugh and throw shade. July 2023, XRP is deemed not a security in the court of law. The maxis begin seething. Then the maxis begin celebrating ETF filings, even though XRP is the banker's coin and anti-crypto, right? For the next 12 plus months, the maxis continue to hype the ETFs while celebrating more and more centralized control of their precious Bitcoin and Ethereum. Fast forward to now, and we have one of the most pro-crypto admins ever combined with a pro-crypto SEC CFTC.
I feel like it's just time to unite for anyone, hating on XRP, loving XRP, saying it's anti-government. Isn't literally utility what is good for crypto? That is what the government is interested in. The government wouldn't even, the banks wouldn't look at XRP if it didn't have a lot of utility, and still people hate XRP. I really don't get it. XRP, in my opinion, literally caused half of this bull run rally. The other half was Bitcoin. And there's a huge battle between these two. You cannot make everyone happy, but that's just an insane factor, right? They're calling it anti-crypto. Maxis were unhinged for the last few years. Think about the disbelief when XRP continues to push higher, even though the number one crypto in USA. I feel like Trump is also going to be going on XRP, in my opinion, because right now XRP is very bullish in the US. Ripple becomes embedded in the US financial system. I hate to break it to you, but Ripple will be a much larger success story than you think. RL, USD, and XRP will continue to grow significantly. Very, very good overall.
Higher, even though it's the number one crypto in the USA category and Ripple becomes embedded in the US financial system. I hate to break it to you maxis, but Ripple will be a much larger success story than you think. ROUSD and XRP will continue to grow significantly. The XRP ledger will become more populated. Now for the best part. This will happen all while the inefficiencies of Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to limit adoption and utilization of these networks. Sorry, but the truth hurts. I wish for Bitcoin and Ethereum to continue to...
A lot of retail investors will buy XRP because they feel like they missed out on crypto. So they will just decide to buy XRP itself because it's only going to be $5 or $4. They're going to think I have $20. I can buy 4 XRP with that. Makes total sense.
In the space. We keep seeing all of this infighting, all of this comparison about, how, Bitcoin's outperforming, XRP and this, that, whatever. It's all nonsense. Listen, we are still in the beginning stages of this cycle for crypto. And what I mean by that, I mean the adoption cycle. I
feel like the next 3 months will really decide which one wins, right? For the long term, XRP or Bitcoin. Which one do you think wins? The one getting bought out by the all institutions or the one that has the most money? There's no right answer. XRP already rose 360%. Bitcoin rose this year 90%. But I feel like in the long term, these two will unite and basically be its own thing. July 2023, XRP is deemed not a security in the court of the law. The maxis begin seeding. that's the thing here is XRP is going to bring billions into crypto, billions. And we should be really thankful for that. No other crypto did that currently. So yeah, there is Ripple founders, employees have been in the middle of almost every single crypto discussion since the election. And didn't XRP Ripple CEO literally meet up with Donald Trump? So he meet up with a government, the president of the United States to talk about crypto on a dinner. I didn't see that for Bitcoin. But again, I'm not saying Bitcoin is bad. I'm just saying that, XRP can do good things for crypto and Bitcoin can do good things for crypto. There are both winners. And whenever Bitcoin goes up, XRP is going to go up. And when XRP goes up, Bitcoin will go up as well, slightly. I feel like it's a win-win, really.
Utility-based projects that are being utilized at scale. So all of this infighting, all of this ridiculousness, it's all exactly what it is right now. Noise. That's all this is simply noise. If Bitcoin is so successful, if Bitcoin is the number one...
Look at it dropping down like 2020. Bitcoin will have to run at XRP to stay relevant. That would be so funny. But if we look at here, lawsuit starts 0.30 range. So basically means how much XRP you have to pay to get 1 Bitcoin. Now it dropped to like all-time lows until the lawsuit is finally over. Look at this, what happened. It literally went back to pre-lawsuit time. So we still have the 2018, 2019 levels of where, XRP could rise up and give more returns. This is the thing. Bitcoin, what's the cap for Bitcoin? Like 200K this cycle? What's easier, 200K 1,000 Bitcoin or $7 XRP? You let me know. But yeah, that's the most basics of it. It seems like, Ripple is having multiple victories over and over again. XRP will eat the Wall Street alive. And we got to talk about the XRP ledger, which has actually absolutely exploded in the last few days. And it's still in testing phases. But they have announced a full-on real-world asset plan, which has actually exploded XRP in the last few days. Again, look at this, what happened with since January 1st. I feel like there's going to be a massive implosion once we see the live updates, which I feel like are going to be next year for the banks. The banks are still testing the XRP ledger.
To eat Wall Street alive. Yes, I strongly believe that this is the case. We're going to go over exactly what I mean by this and why it's so important to focus on these types of crypto projects. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the main thing that I'm looking at here is projects with utility. Projects that are enabling the largest use cases.
That's what I've been calling for, guys. 2021 was way too many meme coins and way too little projects with utility. Look what the US government did when they announced that all US government-based coins are going, basically to be working with US or are going to be approved or have less tax or going to have some sort of collaboration. These coins went up 350%. They got bought up by millionaires, guys, exactly as predicted. All these US coins could be just the start. And I feel like more companies, crypto companies, could start up in US. And I feel like XRP is going to grow in US more. Only, about 8% of people own crypto right now? 8%. 50 million Americans, something like that. Could be totally wrong here, but that's from the data we have recently. So there is still a massive, massive supply of retail investors possibly coming to XRP.
That every big player outside of crypto is looking at. What are those use cases? Stablecoins, tokenization. The big two, right? Because again, once you have stablecoins, you could focus on tokenization. You could also focus on DeFi use cases.
Tokenization is the future. Like that's where they also put a lot of money in. BlackRock is doing tokenization, but so are they. They will probably tokenize stocks. They will tokenize anything possible. Tokenize bank stuff that they already are working with banks, which is going to be extra money for them that they can reinvest and put it, into other assets.
So these are big enablers of significant use cases. Now, when we think about that, right, we look at a few things. Number one, let's think about tokenization, because the XRP ledger currently has $180 million tied to it in tokenization. This is actually starting to grow in a big way. It's actually up about 52% in the last 30 days. And it's something that I am keeping a close eye on, because we already know today that the XRP ledger is home to many categories of tokenized assets, stablecoins, US treasuries, stock.
This is the tokenized ledger, or Ripple USD, or whatever you want to call it, before it even grew big, right? This is just the testing phase. I feel like that XRP ledger is really going to change the world at this point.
Real estate,
or at least it's going to change the banking system. That's already for sure. Like only 30,000 people holding Ripple USD. Or XRP is going to be used to manage this, XRP ledger. Even Ondo, like the Ondo payments, I'm pretty sure that BlackRock is paying Ondo through Ripple USD. So a very big amount.
as well, non-US government debt. I mean,
And they're burning like $3,000 of XRP today. They're probably going to burn much more in the near future.
what we are starting to see with some of these networks is just increased growth of tokenized assets. The main thing that we're looking at here, though, is stocks, because we are going to continue to see more and more stocks move on chain. Currently speaking, we could see what stocks are trading on chain. We have Exodus, Tesla, Master, the actual SPY. We also have Nvidia, Coin, which is Coinbase, CSPX, Circle, Google, Apple.
So yeah, this is going to be the future when you can buy real estates on the chain on XRP ledger. And that's going to be tons of burns happening when you're going to buy land, real estate, stocks. Everything wants to be run on the ledger. And again, banks will make sure that you can put the money back and forth, right, from XRP ledger, which is the main selling point of Ripple, which is going to use XRP for gas fees.
All of this is already on chain. We're starting to see stocks get tokenized in a big way. I think that this is so important to focus on. Also, we have index funds moving on chain. I mean, guys, it's crazy to think, but this is the start of one of the largest revolutions in finance. Now,
we've been building this for like 15 years. No stranger to crypto bullishness was taken aback by just how bullish Atkins' project crypto speech was. Three main investment opportunities he sees. And he actually did mention XRP here. So literally super apps that are merging traditional assets and crypto like Coinbase, Robinhood, DeFi apps like Aave. Look at that.
Just how bullish Atkins's project crypto speech was. Here are the three main investment opportunities he sees coming out of it. Layer 1s that support stablecoins and tokenization, Ethereum, Solana, ADA, XRP, Avalanche, APT, Sui, Near, etc. Super apps that are merging traditional assets and crypto alike. Coinbase, Robinhood, etc. DeFi apps like Uniswap and Aave. I mean, guys, what we are starting to see here is extreme adoption of crypto tech.
Everyone is coming now to XRP. Everyone is coming to Ethereum. All the big players who ignored it before, crypto regulation is getting more clear, which gives them more time to play. The chairman of SEC gave a speech to the America First policy, Leadership in Digital Finance Revolution. And the government is talking about how they will monetize this and mentioned XRP even on what will happen. Layer 1 that supports stablecoins to tokenization. So basically, dollars will be digitalized right now, which means they will be on the blockchain, which means they will be online, faster and stronger than ever before. And that will mean a lot of money will be coming in.
Here we have the full breakdown. The most bullish document I've read on crypto wasn't written by some Yahoo on Twitter. It was written by the chairman of the SEC. Last week, Paul Atkins, the chairman of the SEC, gave a speech to the America First Policy Institute titled American Leadership in the Digital Finance Revolution. You should go read it now. No, seriously, go read it. It's a roadmap for how to invest over the next 5 years. In the speech, the chairman lays out his vision for how financial markets will work in the future. Spoiler alert, it all centers around public blockchains like Ethereum. He argues that all assets, stocks, bonds, dollars, etc. will eventually move over public blockchains. Decentralized finance will play a big role in our future. Crypto assets and blockchains can create exciting new business models. The primary thing that has...
I feel like the main thing that was like, backed why this has not happened was, one, the lawsuit for Ripple actually, put it back, set it back. And the second thing that really hyped it up is there wasn't really a technology. RippleNet was in development stages. But 2026, 2027 is a time where Ripple can handle, all the transactions on the whole world. Right now, we're still using old systems that are outdated. With that being said, they are literally noticing that we are entering a new era where millionaires will literally be made.
Held us back from this revolution has been a hostile regulatory environment, and that has now pivoted 180 degrees. So this all becomes extremely bullish to focus on. So this actually ignites more and more growth of these types of networks. XRP is one of them. But it all ties back to tokenization. Now, Ripple recently put out a post regarding tokenization. They said tokenization isn't a trend, it's reshaping global finance.
It's becoming a real thing. Yeah, it is the future. It was like a fad thing. It wasn't real 5 years ago. So just like a fairy tale. But now Ripple coming in is literally, this is their next plan to push XRP from $10 to $100, in my opinion. So what we saw is, $1 to $10 is not that hard for Ripple. The next $10 to $100 is going to be way, way harder, in my opinion. And they're going to have to expand more than just banking system if they want to reach $100. And in my opinion, they're literally setting up for XRP to go to $20. In my opinion, not financial advice. But it is very clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to expand into stuff that's not just, banks. They don't want to be known for one thing. They want to be the global net. Look at what Ripple is. It's like a connected 3 dots, right? They're trying to go worldwide.
Rural access in Latin America.
And yeah, all these things are already ready. But I feel like in the next 2 to 3 years, as I worked in RWA, or at least research RWA a lot, there's going to be a big difference on where crypto goes.
Trade finance and structured lending in Southeast Asia. Real estate tokenization with control, alt, and land department on the XRP ledger. Explore more tokenization use cases and learn how custody is at the center of global tokenization growth. Now, within this, we do have a full breakdown of these types of use cases. They even said that from gold and treasuries to real estate and equities, moving traditional assets on chain is unlocking liquidity, increasing transparency, and democratizing access to markets once reserved for a select few. Yet, while headlines often highlight the growth of tokenized products and pilots, an equally critical part of this transformation gets far less attention. Digital asset custody, secure institutional...
So yeah, that is the big thing that RWA people don't realize, is this is still in very early stages, but Ripple just did a $200 million deal with Rail, which is going to do a lot of stable coin transfers. This is something that BlackRock, $1 trillion company, has just entered in, right? RWA. BlackRock, Larry Fink, CEO, is bullish on the RWA tokenization, which the US has said, we want to digitalize a lot of the stuff, a lot of the treasuries, a lot of the stocks that you could sell could be only a click of a button. And that's what makes it so powerful. It is going to be available to worldwide, not just the crypto markets. So that would be a lot of money coming in. Money market funds are helping businesses manage liquidity and returns. DZ Bank, like buying like dollar, for example. That's going to be what Ripple will provide for, people from other countries to buy the US dollar. That's a very powerful move if you want to secure yourself.
Region satisfying specific needs. North America and Europe, tokenized treasuries and money market funds are helping businesses manage liquidity and returns. DZ Bank, for an example, has launched a digital custody offering for crypto securities like tokenized bonds to enhance capital market efficiencies. Latin America, Well, we already just talked about some of these, right? These are the main ones that we're actually looking at. But by 2033, the overall value of tokenized real-world assets is projected to reach nearly $19 trillion, according to recent estimates.
$19 trillion. So even if XRP has a very small market share, this could be absolutely the next big thing. Again, even if they hit 1/19 of that, that is 1 trillion of a market share they get. That could be 1 trillion extra for Ripple, which would in turn mean over $15 XRP. So that is crazy. That's why I'm telling you guys this. And this is just for tokenized real world assets. This is just for like apartments, real estate. So everything you can see with eyes will be tokenized. Exactly. Tokenized client assets like real estate and equities alone could top 3.7 trillion and 2 trillion. So that's 2033. So $15 XRP. That's what they're setting up for. $15 to $20 XRP.
And tokenized client assets like real estate and equities alone could top 3.7 trillion
Everything
and
you can
2
see.
trillion, respectively. This shift isn't happening in
Thank you guys for
isolation. It
smashing that
reflects
like button.
changing attitudes among traditional institutions, growing regulatory clarity,
Helps
and
me
the
out a lot.
importance of extensive security measures and the rise of stablecoins as an accessible entry point into the digital asset ecosystem. And real estate tokenization in action, well, here you're actually starting to see a few of those big moves. In fact, one of the biggest moves here with Hong Kong with Fubon Bank, we already know that Ripple partnered up with Fubon Bank to tokenize, real estate with the XRP ledger. This was back in I want to say 2022, 2023. But Colombia, working with the Ministry of Information and Communications Technologies.
So with all these bank partnerships, Ripple has the advantage of basically working with the governments directly. That's what Ripple is doing right now. They have so many partnerships. They can literally work on this stuff with the governments directly, which gives them a way bigger boost than any other crypto projects right now. So that is a lot of money when you work with a government, right?
To tokenize land ownership, improving transparency and reducing fraud. These are all the pilots around the world that Ripple has already supported to really focus on real estate tokenization. Even Dubai, right? All of these moves, guys, the real estate market is like $300+ trillion, almost $400+ trillion globally. This is a massive move. And of course, the focus here, the XRP ledger. So when we're thinking about what's going on here, what Ripple is doing, what they're enabling, all of the key pieces here, stablecoins, on and off ramps, digital asset custody, you have XRP and the XRPL tapped in for tokenization. They have an all-in-one umbrella for tokenization. But how is this leading to, XRP eating Wall Street alive? Well, number one, we have over here from Watcher Guru.
SEC Paul Chair Atkins says Wall Street and Silicon Valley companies are lining the doors with requests to tokenize. Again, who are they going to go to? The first ones that have a product developed. Who's it going to be? It's going to be probably Ripple, right? Ripple is already developing this for 3 years. So that's the smart thing that Ripple did. Just like they did with the banks, they're doing same for RWA. So what happened before is with banks, they needed 15 years to develop something. Now they have developed something immediately. Like they're already doing the next thing on the line. As soon as they get this money, they reinvest it.
In SEC Chair Paul Atkins says Wall Street and Silicon Valley companies are lined up at our doors with requests to tokenize. Wall Street wants to tokenize. They want to move on chain. And guess who is enabling this? Names like Robinhood. Here we have stablecoins set to eat Wall Street alive. Crypto isn't just coming for banks, it's coming for everything: stocks, real estate, private equity, and even fine art. With new stablecoin legislation, the US is one signature away from strapping the dollar to a rocket and launching it straight into the future. CEO and co-founder of Robinhood app, Vlad Tenev, said...
So could that power anything? Literally, the billionaires are talking about tokenizing. So it's not a small thing anymore. The entire financial system into an app store. That's what I'm telling you guys. XRP is going to enable it so you can just buy it very simply, like over a click of a button.
This tech could power anything. It's like turning the entire financial system into an app store. The US wants to lead this revolution, not chase it, and the fuse has officially been lit. Check this out.
I believe that crypto technology is going to power a large part of financial services as an industry in the near future. And the U.S. needs to be a leader. We're a leader in financial services. We should be a leader in all frontier technologies. And the stablecoin legislation is the first step in that, by allowing U.S. dollars and treasuries to be put on crypto technology in digital form. That opens the door to digitizing all kinds of real-world assets, from stocks to eventually private equity, art. Anything can be powered by this technology. So we're excited to see the U.S. taking a big step in leadership, and yeah, pretty soon we'll christen this thing, and the bill will become law. So
I feel like a lot of people will, can potentially even buy a share of Ripple or a share of XRP on the chain. So the most important factor is a lot of people will buy this using the XRP ledger, most likely, or Ripple ledger, which in turn is going to burn tons and tons of XRP. Because again, to make all these transactions, you got to go through the ledger, which is going to transfer all these tokenized assets with 15,000 transactions. They already have that ready. This is going to be, even if they have like 10,000 transactions per second, this is going to be probably thousands or tens of thousands in XRP burned, which in turn will increase the price.
It's great to be here for the industry and for consumers. I believe that crypto tech.
And again, this is coming from Robinhood's CEO. The fact that this is
from a billionaire, it's coming from a billionaire.
Hearing about from one of the largest Wall Street players. Again, we got to think about this. Robinhood powers 25 million users to trade stocks, crypto, you name it. And again, he's even telling us that we are witnessing the largest shift in real time. It's everything moving on chain. The SEC told us everything is moving on chain. We even have over here, again, from Vlad Tenev back in the beginning of July, tokenization is perhaps the biggest innovation to come into capital markets in the past decade.
And you probably saw last week, Chairman Atkins of the SEC gave an interview about tokenization. He called it a great innovation. And we agree with that. We think tokenization is perhaps the biggest innovation to come into capital markets.
So literally billionaires are calling for XRP, that it's going to be one of the big things. It is absolutely insane. Like Vlad Tenev, the Robinhood CEO, calling for this could push XRP, to $10, $20. And everybody sleeps on this because this is, it's hard to understand. And a lot of people don't want to understand it, but it's going to be out there just like NFTs were, just like, Ripple now, the banking system. If one of the banks decide to work with this, and they already are, this is going to be a momentum, same as we saw with XRP getting all these bank partnerships. I am seeing the same scenario 1 to 2 years down the line. So what this means for you is the Ripple and XRP could, again, I'm not a financial advisor, could potentially grow in value because of this. Because all of this points to another rally that Ripple will have set up for its future. And it's going to be a $1 trillion market. It's going to be a $19 trillion market in that sense.
In the past decade.
And when we're thinking about this, we think about the connections back to Robinhood with XRP. Okay, today, XRP is one of the few networks that are actually, really tapped in with tokenized stocks. Here you can actually see all of the...
They're already running tokenized stocks. So once they get all of the other stuff like properties, they're basically probably you can tokenize even anything you see. And in the end, you can tokenize gold if you want, or artifacts, or collectibles. And that's the big thing. You can buy a fraction of that. You don't have to buy a full amount. If something is $1 million, you can own like a 0.1% of it. And that's the beauty of it. So that's why people will probably buy it, because they want to own, they will say like, I own 0.1% of this art, until they will slowly buy and own over 50% of it.
Bitstamp has been acquired by Robinhood. Bitstamp, in collaboration with Ripple, plans to launch their own digital derivatives exchange built...
Again, Ripple plans to launch their own digital derivative exchange built entirely on XRP Ledger. So again, another big win. Robinhood working with Ripple. I mean, this is another step to go to like $15, $20.
Entirely on the XRP ledger. This acquisition brings on a licensed global exchange with retail and institutional
Why is nobody talking about this? Like, that is the good news that we have been waiting for.
users across the EU, the UK, the US, and even Asia. And if we're thinking about this, okay, Robinhood wants to go all in on tokenization. This platform, this is a digital derivatives exchange, and it's built on one of the most prominent networks in the space, the XRP ledger. But again, Robinhood wants to tokenize. They are fully behind this technology. And back in January of this year, big shout to Smoke Dog for this, Robinhood documented XRP in their document on tokenization. It cited the success of Ripple's tokenization.
So yeah, Robinhood literally mentioning XRP. As I told you guys, who will they pick to work with? It's gonna be basically Ripple. Ripple is gonna be the main factor. They already have the technology. So Robinhood already knows this, and this could further push it up. Now, they are working on this, which could take a few months, but this is another step for Ripple to basically secure itself into the future. Think of it like the first Amazon or the first Walmart. You know, once you have everything set up, it's going to be very hard for competition to come in. And they're going to be the first ones to do it. So there's the thing. When you're the first one, you're also basically the best one. You have a product developed and everybody will want to work with you, which in turn means XRP could explode, especially if we are seeing Robinhood users starting to use their ledger, which according to this document, they will.
Of RWAs on the XRP ledger. Look at this. Here we have tokenization January 2025. Digital asset firm Ripple has tokenized hundreds of millions of dollars of RWAs on the XRP ledger. Robinhood is also, they acquired Bitstamp, which Bitstamp was already partnered up with Ripple. They were working on that digital derivatives exchange, and this was all with the XRP ledger. I don't think that this is just a coincidence. I strongly believe that with ROUSD, it's going to continue to become extremely successful. It's going to be
I feel like it's basically like Robinhood's way of acquiring also a share of Ripple without buying it directly, right? So if they just buy a share of Ripple, that's how they do it. They buy a full company that's building products for other companies.
A digital dollar essentially that you trade tokenized stocks with. I strongly believe that this statement here, stablecoins set to eat Wall Street alive, we could change that. I strongly think that the XRP ledger and layer ones like the XRP ledger are going to be the main ones eating Wall Street alive. Because again, stocks will be tokenized on these public networks. Stablecoins will be settled on these public networks. Guess what is the main thing that powers these types of use cases? The gas token. XRP will power these types of use cases with ROUSD and tokenized stocks living on the XRPL. We are witnessing this big shift. It's happening. It's not a question of, I wonder if this is happening. No, it's happening now. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did,
so yeah, this is the thing. They literally Robinhood is at all-time high, and it's not gonna stop. They are building this for Ripple. So once Ripple goes online in 2026, this could be generational wealth coming in and working with all these big partnerships. Again, they have millions and millions of contacts to basically set themselves up for a $1 trillion company at some point. I mean, NVIDIA is a $1 trillion company. I feel like there will be many more coming in, so who knows? But this is the start of them. They're already valued at what, 500 billion? At least that's what some people are saying. So it's not that far off. It's literally the number 25th right now. What if it becomes the number 15th, number 10? There is going to be more and more money coming in. So in the next 10 years, next 5 years, it's going to be developed faster than ever. XRP price expert confirms $750 XRP in 2025. Now, I usually don't believe this, price predictions for XRP because we don't actually know what the prices are going to be for XRP. You can call it anything you want, but at the end of the day, $750 we're still very far off from $750. But $10, $20, you know, it's not that inevitable anymore. And it's looking strong. So smash that like button, guys, if you haven't already. I will keep you guys with more news as well. But let's take a look at the $750 price prediction.
The influencer named Jake Claver is putting it in the minds of XRP holders that XRP has a shot to reach $750 in 2025. So I needed to better understand what is Jake seeing here that maybe I'm not, so I can better explain it to you, because I'm getting comments, questions, and all kinds of people expecting crazy prices for XRP over the next 5 months. So let's better understand what.
So yeah, next 5 months, again, if 750 is going to be hard, but you know, going for $7, $5, if XRP went from $1 to $3, it definitely is possible here. It is not that crazy to call it no. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for smashing that like button as well.
What Jake is seeing in the market, what needs to happen for this to actually come true, and if
like $750 is like a theory price, right?
This is even a real possibility in my eyes. I'm gonna break it all down. You gotta hear what he's now saying about the $750. So Jake often talks about the XRP domino theory effect. This is his most popular videos and content, and this is what really brings people to his door. So let's better understand what he thinks is going to happen here. The macroeconomic shock, oil market, and Bank of Japan. The scenario is a spike in oil prices forces the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates, triggering the unwinding of the global yen carry trade, disrupting markets worldwide. The impact here would be tremendous volatility as leveraged positions funded by cheap yen unwind, affecting global equities and bonds, and the probability of this happening is moderate. Oil price shocks are plausible, but a full carry trade unwind is debated by economists. Now, I have a full...
I feel like if you believe in the $700 XRP, you should also believe in $100 XRP first, or $50 XRP. You know, these are theory prices from what people say that XRP is going to explode overnight, but I actually feel some of these are pretty possible. That is with RWA. And again, you got to think about long term. A lot of people are not thinking like 10, 15, 20 years. These are the real prices, you know, but with so much money in, 10, 15 years passes really fast.
Markets enhancing fears of liquidity shortages. The probability of this happening are low to moderate. Digital yen development is progressing, but a full-blown shift away from treasuries is unlikely without further catalysts happening. Jake often talks about the issues with Tether and Bitcoin, and if that unwinds, that could be a pretty significant moment here. So the scenario would be new US global regulations for stablecoins spur demand for fully backed assets, while investigations into Tether lead to market panic.
So yeah, if you believe that, you know, XRP is going to be 750, then you can believe that, you know, Bitcoin is going to hit 1 million, which is not that crazy. But if we want to see 750 XRP, that is trillions and trillions of dollars. It would be basically more than the US dollar right now. The US dollar of its entire creation. But up to 2.3 trillion in demand for US treasuries could emerge from new rules. So this is the new thing, like crypto market contagion scenario, crypto market chaos triggered by stablecoin panic. People are saying that everybody's going to start using XRP. Stock market sell-off and fight for liquidity. So people would say that, you know, sell-offs in stocks forcing institutions to seek alternate sources of liquidity. Moderate equities are sensitive to systematic shock. Like what we saw when stocks get sold off is they don't buy XRP, is that XRP gets dumped. XRP gets sold and people keep their stocks. Like when the bear markets hit, people will sell the first thing they can, and that will be usually, you know, more risky assets like crypto. So they sell off their XRP.
Interconnected ETFs. Now, let me ask you a question. If Tether does implode and something really bad happens, do you think that's going to somehow benefit the XRP ledger? It could benefit RLUSD and that growth and adoption, absolutely, but the rest of the crypto market, that would probably be a black swan event that we haven't even experienced yet. And we've experienced stuff like the Terra Luna collapse or the FTX fraud. Those two things were horrible for the crypto market. Do you think Tether imploding would be as horrible or even worse? I personally think it could be even worse.
I feel like that would be the end of crypto. If Tether implodes, again, so many projects work with Tether, but I feel like that's also not comparable.
of those funds, and we'll have to see how this unfolds. Also, the market impact here would be sudden demand for XRP as global bridge assets spike.
So yeah, if you want to get demand for XRP, it is not with any cryptos crashing. Like people are saying, oh, if this crypto crashes, yeah, this happened with Terra Luna Classic though. When Terra Luna Classic, crashed, all the Koreans went from Terra Luna Classic to XRP. That is good, right? The market moved, but look at what happened. What was the after cause of that is everybody in Terra Luna Classic lost a ton of money and never could come back to crypto. So XRP ETF and legal regulatory clarity, approval of US-based XRP ETF, ongoing legal clarity and favorable US policy, market capacity, 50% for incremental progress, ETF clarity, lower for true legal green light, right? So it's saying that this oil shock trigger, which has 40% happening in 2025 to 2026. I feel like the chances of that happening are way lower anyway.
Ripple has dropped their cross appeal. They are waiting for the SEC.
With the lawsuit being over, the plan for XRP $3 to $6 range gets much easier. Imagine if they didn't win the lawsuit. Like we would never see even $2 XRP.
10%. Each event amplifies the next, but also introduces uncertainty for alternative outcomes. The most plausible scenario that Perplexity sees here for 2025 and 2026 is incremental adoption, increased institutional participation, and higher ODL volumes supporting XRP between $3 and $6 range, unless a truly extraordinary shock catalyzes a steep change for XRP price. Now, I think the prices obviously could be higher here if you get ETF demand, if we get 5, 10, $20 billion in inflows, and if we get some type of market cap multiplier, that definitely could take us into the multi-trillions pretty quickly. Now, getting into this information about the $750, now Jake was
So yeah, I feel like any Black Swan event is definitely not going to help Ripple. It's going to be bad. But let's talk about $750. Now, $750 is a very, very far fetch. But this person, Jake, I'm pretty sure his name is, Jake Claver, has been right on a lot of stuff, especially in the oil market. So it's not like, he's fishing for attention with XRP. It could be, but he has been correct on lots of things, basically. So that's sink in as well.
KK Pond, he says, I was in Spaces a few nights ago. David Schwartz said we were about 8 months from institutional adoption. Trump also said a boom in 6 months out.
That's what I'm calling
that
October.
Change your price? Are we still, $750 to $1,000 by December? So though, again, those targets that they're laying out there are predicated on, just things moving at the pace that they're moving now. That's not involving additional catalysts that could push things up or expedite things. There are some amendments on the XRPL that I'm watching for. That I think that's kind of what they're discussing, right? So you need liquidity pools, you need permission decks, you need permission domains on the XRPL, borrow lend functionality.
I have all this information after he speaks. I'm going to show you what he's talking about too, because I looked all that up for you.
There's going to be a lot of things that come about in that period of time that you just mentioned over the next 8 months.
So yeah, the normal things that we expect now, these are the ones that, are going to push the prices up. But he's saying that there's could be other things that, in the next 6 months, I feel like it's going to be less than 6 months, to be honest, just with how fast the markets move, it is going to push for another momentum here. It is going to push for, really like something that we haven't even seen before. Just like Trump announcing how good he will get on crypto. We didn't expect that. So there's many positive indicators for the markets pumping.
We finally do have, some votes on some of the things that I talked to David Schwartz about at consensus in 2024, which was XLS 64, 65, and 66. They are currently up for vote there. So things don't seem to be progressing very quickly from the validators on those. Yep. It always takes some poking and prodding for people to update their infrastructure and make sure that they're running, at the scale that they need to before they can update and vote. But I do think that those will get passed in a reasonable amount of time, hopefully before the end of the quarter here. And so I'm still very optimistic, again, with the catalysts that I've talked about. And again, everything that I'm talking about, it's event driven. I can put a time frame on it. I'm confident that it happens before the end of the year. But if those things don't play out and there's not a cascading event where the dominoes fall like I proposed, it's not going to get to those.
So yeah, he's been calling for 750 XRP if oil falls, or if there's a catalyst event, XRP could hit 750. But again, if you want to see $750 XRP in less than 10, 20, 30 years, literally everything has to go right. Everything you can imagine has to go right from the start to see those prices.
Those high prices. Maybe it does get to 10, 13, 15, 25, 50 bucks just from ETFs and some of the other volume on stuff. And then maybe we get a little pullback before we get institutional adoption and we see it skyrocket to those levels. I don't think that's going to be the case. Again, I think it's going to be a problem reaction solution type situation. Maybe they run it up to 10 bucks or 13 bucks and most people exit and it starts to fall back. And that's when, everything actually unfolds. I think that if they really don't want retail in, I don't think they really care. I mean, after the conversations I've had with people, I don't think they really care. But if there is a power or somebody that's, here against retail for some reason, that would be the way to get people out. The way to get people out would be to run it up to like $10 to $15. Most people would exit that aren't here for the long term or understand what it is. And they would make a lot of money. Like there's nothing wrong with taking profit. I just want to say that, a lot of people, obviously, we want to be able to borrow against it. We want to be able to use it to earn income. I've already put those things in place with Digital Wealth Partners. We're continuing to add, other opportunities, sat in institutional custody.
Okay, you understand.
So I feel like the pretty point was clear is that there are two scenarios. Either like we are seeing XRP run up to potentially like $10, most likely not. This is the one scenario. Or someone or somehow they would run it to, which he doesn't think is the other theory, is it goes to $15 and then crashes down hard. Like people sell everything, right? So these are the two scenarios. Either it goes slowly up to like $6, $5. I feel like $10, he was pretty optimistic. The other scenario, it pumps very much up, lots and lots, and it goes back down, for many, many years, which has happened with Bitcoin before.
And that his kind of goalpost keeps changing here. You're talking about basically the collapse of a system and a rebirth of a new system all on the XRP ledger. It's 5 months to go, ladies and gentlemen. The chances of this happening are very, very thin. But,
So again, people are saying if the whole market collapses, they will start to use XRP ledger. But this is in theory. Like if the markets collapse, why wouldn't they just use the old system that's already working? That's why I don't think $750 XRP will happen. So they're saying this catalyst events will basically pump XRP, but I feel like the opposite. Every time we saw a bad event, the prices were dropping dramatically.
The reason this has become so blown up is because Jake was even betting people in his community thousands of XRP that these things would happen. And this is why people now believe we're heading for $750. I think we bit off a little bit more than we can chew. I do believe XRP could get to 4 digits, maybe even 5 digits, but this is much longer down the line. We are still in a speculation market. We're all speculating, is XRP worth $3, right? We don't have ETFs. We don't have major institutional demand yet.
That's what I've been calling right now. It's like people have said it's $500, $600 will happen. But if you want to have $500, $600, he's basically saying the entire markets would need to crash, like the entire system. And then the government suddenly decides to build on the ledger. But now we just have bank support. We don't have the full government support yet.
We don't have banks using this at full scale. We're not there. So how are we going to get to $750 if we're not even at that point yet? What type of market cap are we talking about for XRP at $750? You're talking about a
44 trillion. So if we replace the dollar for XRP, people are saying, yes, we would get $750 XRP. But in 5 months is just crazy, especially like 2025. It is 0% chance. I mean, it's a non-zero. There's always like a more than 0% chance, but maybe like 0.00001%.
$4.5 trillion market cap for XRP. Bitcoin is at 2.3. trillion right now. Let's just call it 2.5. You're talking about a...
So basically, it would need to be bigger than Bitcoin and 14 times to 30 times that.
Clarity and government endorsement. The US and other financial superpowers would have to grant full regulatory approval for XRP, not only removing legal uncertainty, but explicitly integrating XRP into global monetary policy and sovereign reserves. This is saying that central banks would start buying their own XRP for their reserves over time. Now, something like this has been already floated for Bitcoin. So I don't think this is very...
If XRP would be like bought like that by the governments, and that, then we would see Bitcoin at 10 million, 15 million. But we're trying to break out for 120,000, right?
Go and throw mud at other blockchains because they're not getting their way on a lot of stuff. I don't think central banks are interested in dealing with that kind of, child's play. They want to deal with a real...
And the thing is, XRP is not even stable. It can drop from $750 to $400. So half of it, like the dollar is kind of stable. That's why people would just stick to the dollar.
Accumulate and hold XRP for their treasuries and strategic reserve assets, as we are seeing indications of that on a small scale today. Now, there's been 11 or 12 companies that have said that they've promised up to $1 billion to put into XRP related treasuries or other XRP utilities for their businesses. We're still waiting to see a lot of that demand. A corporate treasury race for XRP paired with similar moves for global banks and investment institutions drives up demand exponentially.
Again, yeah, if we see a big crash like the oil crash, like we see the 2009 crash, I feel like the crypto XRP would be the first one to take a hit. It's not like, the government would suddenly decide, well, since all of the crypto crashed, let's put it all back into XRP. And let's buy XRP this time instead of the US dollar. It's just not happening. Like 750 XRP is going to be a long, long shot if it ever happens. But now, like, when we think about XRP, it can definitely reach the market cap of NVIDIA, which is like, what, 1 trillion? Now, that is real. That is $15, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen. So that's where the real potential is. Like aiming for $15, $12, being realistic about your goals. 4x from $3. Now that is a potential, But 750, we got to stay realistic here.
Of years. At the normal pace that we're going right now, we're talking about 50 to 60,000 years to burn through even a remote supply of the XRP, right? It's just not going to happen.
Banks are already using XRP. Australia running on XRP. So they're testing XRP right now. It's the first step of XRP. We still have many steps ahead.
In our lifetimes. Also, global macro shocks and flight to hard digital assets. A catastrophic collapse of the fiat systems, banking, or global equities leads to a flight to safety, not into just gold or Bitcoin, but XRP as a perceived superior hard digital asset. Hyperinflation, systemic banking collapse, or sovereign default events trigger extraordinary
$5 to $50 within cycles. Like this could be like in 20 years. Ripple partnerships. It really depends on how good Ripple does. I feel like most people don't realize is how important these partnerships are for Ripple, and guessing how big RWA really gets. Is it going to be like the NFT thing where it disappears after a few months, or is real world assets going to be used by all the banks in the world? That's going to be the change between like $7 and $50 for XRP.
Flow into crypto, and XRP uniquely benefits due to legal clarity and cross-border payment capabilities. It says current analysts and industry consensus that XRP could be anywhere between $5 and $50. And then some people believe it could be as high as $100. Now, I think XRP ETFs will play a vital role in all this, but
XRP ETFs are just the prerequisites to being, the big thing.
We need to get there. We need the Ripple and SEC case to be dropped, and then we need these ETFs to go into effect. Remember, the spot ETFs is where we're going to get that money into inflows, buying new XRP off the open market. The only other way to do this is if they figure out some way to tokenize value by locking up XRP or buying new XRP off the open market and locking that XRP up. Jake did mention XLS 64, XLS 65, and XLS 66. Let me just show you what these are. The XLS 64 is a pseudo account amendment purpose Catalyst introduces a pseudo account or account root object that can be linked to with various ledger entries for advanced asset management or delegation. The XLS64D proposal has been discussed and trailed, but it is not yet listed for fully enabled or activated on mainnet. There's also the single asset vault, enables a single asset vault on chain primitive for pooling assets for multiple depositors with ownership represented by shares. This is a key building.
So these are all the things they're building right now, right? But this will take a long time to actually build. XLS is now live on XRP Ledger. Depositors can aggregate pools. They are 99% finished. They are still building, like, you know, fixing some of the stuff. They're going to do loans on the lending protocols. Like, this is the big thing. But if you want to make this, you know, succeed, you have to offer it to the banks. And we're still trying to convince as many banks as possible to join us and to actually test these products and go live with them, right? And they're just doing testing right now. So that's the important factor. Enable active on XRPL. I feel like there's going to be a lot of the stuff that they're going to offer to these banks. But if a bank wants to take over and use their system, which none of these banks have done yet, it needs to be stable, it needs to work. Again, this is a $1 trillion thing. It can't just go offline. So that's what they're offering all of this to the banks right now. But it's going to take time to develop.
XLS66D is enabled and active on the XRP Ledger. So we do have a lot of this stuff right now on the XRP Ledger. Some of the stuff needs to still be approved. If you're interested to know what amendment...
I feel like a lot of regulation and stuff like that. Like, if the bank is like worth $1 trillion or a 10 billion or maybe 500 billion, of course they will take their time and just start testing XRP first and Ripple first before they actually accept it. So yeah, XRP, they just said this. This is the important thing. What did it just say?
Talk about the future price of XRP. I want to run some numbers with you and also talk to you about the Ripple and SEC case. Guys, we just got some comments out of the SEC. I want to get on your radar. A lot put out in this quick video, I think.
So what happened with XRP is XRP just had a momentum this past month.
Okay, this is from the horse's mouth. Chairman Paul Atkins literally saying now they can foster innovation here in the States, move forward. It's clear what direction they're going. And it's also clear the relationship they have with Ripple now.
So yeah, Ripple just got bought out. Well, Robinhood bought out Bitstamp, which Bitstamp is building RWA, real world asset application on the ledger, Ripple ledger, which is a very big momentum for Ripple overall. And I love Multimedia because he always records in his car for some reason.
A price set based off what Ripple and institutions, financial institutions, went to the table and discussing in the negotiation stage. Now, I want to go all the way back to 2011, May 27th, where Jed McCaleb, one of the co-founders, right, was talking about building a better Bitcoin. And
so yeah, banks are going like now from basically not wanting to work with it to we're finally getting the final confirmation for crypto. This is the most important factor we have been. This is the big confirmation before everything changes, right? Here it is. XRP has been awaiting for this moment where the government is going to be literally like, yes, RWA is the future, XRP, and they mentioned XRP in the documents, which made XRP rise up shortly.
How much will be spent mining if the network ever gets large? It would be cool to come up with a Bitcoin that doesn't need miners.
So again, like they're talking about Bitcoin all the time, but it's going to be XRP that is going to be transferring all these transactions. That is why in the future, more and more people could focus to Ripple and XRP.
The rest is history. Again, a couple other paragraphs he wrote on this. Essentially, that's what they did. They built a Bitcoin called XRP that's faster, more efficient, scalable, right? And when we take a look at what...
And there's a lot of people, you know, in Bitcoin who hate XRP because they're saying this is like pro-government. It should be anti-government. But the reality is Ripple and XRP really helped a lot in crypto. They really joined a lot of discussions, finished a lot of tasks, and actually advised the governments on how to make XRP and crypto useful. So that's one thing that they've been doing.
In those court documents, we've got way more NDAs at this point in time. You know, numerous NDAs have come to Ripple since then. We take a look at what's coming with that and the negotiations that happen there. As we know,
it just makes you think how many of these partnerships are coming from XRP that are currently not available for a very simple reason that they just cannot talk about it yet.
That they had to have talked about price because of two things, liquidity and volatility. You cannot have too much volatility when moving large sums of liquidity, when we're talking about billions and billions in transactions happening all day, every day. We know Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said that he believes they'll capture about 14% in the coming years of SWIFT. We're talking about a massive amount of volume.
So yeah, Swift is the number one key player, but of course there's like a new kid on the block. It is Ripple, and it's trying to get this big amount.
Volume, bringing capital, liquidity to the XRPL. Well, ArchX here today wrote, meet XRP, the native token of the XRPL. XRP is designed to enable cost-efficient cross-border payments and liquidity. That's a big one here. Last year, the CEO, Graham Rodford, talked in 2024 about how even this year, 2025 Q4, he believes we could see 30 to 50 trillion moving on the XRPL.
Now that's pretty crazy. 30 to 50 trillion would mean that this would be, like he said that a year ago, and now it's 5 months left and we were going to see 30 to 50 trillion. That's like basically the US debt. I don't see that happening. Like, maybe people were saying that in theory, but this obviously cannot happen right now. But now seeing 20 billion, because Ripple is still in testing phase, it just got the lawsuit over, there is still a lot of positive news that, you know, when Ripple goes out, this RW8 partnership that they just have that I talk on every single one of my videos, now that's the next big thing that people are pushing for.
Trillions are coming for cross-border payments.
I mean, trillion, like 30 to 40 trillion, maybe a transaction is going to be hard too. Like all of that is going to be hard. But what Ripple is doing is it has a big community in Korea of traders that will potentially push Ripple to all-time high.
Middle of it all because of the connections we have with, or XRP and Ripple has with these institutions. And so projections and numbers, those are the type of things that we really need to dig deep in. And again, this is part one of part two. When we take a look at the future price of XRP and understanding that it cannot be cheap. And so I know that in this,
I feel like it was under tapped before. It was definitely under tapped when it was 20, 30 cents. Whales kept buying, but as soon as the lawsuit was over, you could not get it below $1. I just feel like it was super under tapped to get it at that price point.
This community, we've got both beginners and experts.
Like, if the governments are talking about it now, why would it ever go back to 20 cents or $1? When the governments hated it before and turned against it, now they're they're working with it. It literally went a full 180.
What I would consider experts that have been in XRP for several years, watch the cryptocurrency market every single day, trade, understand, blockchain from a deeper sense. But together, collectively, we can help each other in understanding that, at least this is what I believe, that retail can drive the price of XRP up so much, but not to a high value that is coming for XRP. Retail can bring it to $5, $10.
I feel like a lot of people don't talk about retail, how important this is. Like 2021 was all about retail, and now we are talking all about institutions plus retail. So I feel like the institutions are going to come first with the ETFs, and next up is going to be retail, as people talk about. It might not be as big as 2021, but it will definitely leave an impact.
But those out there telling you the top of the cycle is $20 to $30, and then that's it, and we're going back to $5 as we start to see regulations completely solidified here in the US where I'm located, as well as globally, I think is very, very naive. And so that's my message here today. And talking about, as this is part one of two, about where the price of XRP is going, not telling you what to do with your hard-earned money. If you plan to take profits at $20, $30, more to you. But again, understanding the ability to move your capital around, to use it for lending options and the ability to create further wealth, and knowing where the price of XRP is truly going and what it was designed.
Like $30 this cycle, it's too crazy. But the issue is here, right now we still don't have retail investors in, which is both good and bad, right? Because if we have retail investors in, XRP would be already pumping to $7. But what we do have is institutional investors. Only 0.008% of institutions own crypto at all. And that's a big momentum when the ETF gets approved. Not if. My personal opinion is it will get approved. And we saw that, a lot of institutions from basically crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum started buying. It is very much, a potential here to see that, like for XRP. We could be seeing XRP pumping to $12 that way. Retail could be one factor, but so could be institutions. So Ripple retail is coming. This is the one I wanted to show you. Retail. Let's take a look about retail. Why is retail so important and why it will pump the price? Because we haven't really seen retail as the way we have in 2021.
Are surging. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So today I started off actually on a green note for XRP. Many others are red throughout the space, so it's very nice to see this taking place. And we did actually have XRP run all the way up to 3.
So yeah, when XRP goes down, or when XRP is up all the time, when other cryptos are down 20%. Again, there's a lot of cryptos down 25%. That's a very good sign. What does this tell me? That the whales are secretly buying. They're secretly buying a lot of XRP.
$8.33. Had some nice liquidations taking place. We obviously talked about that huge imbalance that was taking place in terms of open.
You can actually see XRP USDT liquidation heat map, which beats a lot of people were saying XRP is going to go down, got destroyed.
Interest yesterday. And you guys can see that this still just looks absolutely disgusting. There's still so much short leverage above here that when the market does in fact kick it into high gear, we could see XRP go on a very sizable run, set a new all-time high, really truly accelerate towards those prices we were talking about, trying to push towards $5. But that's a discussion for a different day. I'm not going to talk too much about that in this video. But what you need to know is that, again, people are easing off of short interest just a little bit because there's a lot of questions about what this week is going to be.
Yeah, so it seems like a lot of people right now who have been saying that the market is going bad got absolutely destroyed. We went the opposite direction. Like everybody who's hating on XRP is now getting punished.
All the way up to almost a new all-time high in the early hours of today's daily candle. And now we'll see how things progress as the day gets underway. Right now it's about 7:20 a.m. Central Standard Time. It came out that Michael Saylor did some more strategy, did some more accumulation in terms of BTC. So
yeah, they're buying BTC. If we get someone like Michael Saylor buying XRP, I feel like XRP would, start at like $6, $7.
See a sell-off to kind of start the day. So we'll see if we can kind of get it in motion as the day progresses. We talked about Ethereum yesterday. We still have not extended this breakout above 4250. So again, like I've talked about in other videos today, just be prepared if the market does pull back to about 4100 in terms of Ethereum. That is well within the realm of reality. As long as we hold support, that would be a good bounce spot. If not, then just watch this 20-day moving average. Okay. We are making.
So look at this. Ripple XRP is still not even at its all-time highs in terms of Google search trends. I've been calling this Google search trends because this usually also is a good indicator of the price. When we saw Ethereum XRP, price go up as Google search trends went up, that is what we're seeing right now. We're still about 37% or 37 out of 100 before XRP is most popular it ever was. So again, there is a lot of new investors or new buyers or just new people talking about XRP. Just like everybody talked about Shiba Inu in 2021, I feel like XRP could be the next big thing we see right now.
Those moves, altcoin search traffic hitting new record highs. This is exactly where we want to be right now, and that is what we're seeing is retail starting to pay attention. And where this gets really fun is something that Raoul Pal was actually suggesting, and I've talked about in terms of ADA and SHIB and other assets as well. And what he said was, sorry, but people are going to buy XRP, Doge, and Cardano, whether you like it or not. I've said this for a long time.
So I don't understand this. Why would people buy Doge or Cardano when Doge and Cardano are down from this year? They are buying XRP because it's amazingly up. It's 350%. Bitcoin is 90% up, and XRP is 350% up this year. So why would people buy Doge and Cardano? I do not understand this article. It makes no sense to me. But Raoul Pal sharpened a long-running argument about how retail capital enters crypto markets, placing nominal price with a single unit cost. Now, this is what he means. They will not buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. They will most likely, in my opinion, buy XRP, because XRP, they will see, oh, this stuff is $3. Let me get like 20 of XRP. That's going to be $60. And if it grows to the price of Bitcoin, it's going to be amazingly, I'm going to be a millionaire. Of course, it doesn't work that way in crypto, but most people won't understand. And that's why people bought SHIB, because they thought it will go to the dollar. Then they would be like millionaires overnight, right? If it pumps to $1. They don't understand what the supply is. But XRP is literally when, people could start learning about it and holding it. There's nothing wrong about buying something and then understanding how it works. And they're going to see Ethereum, well, pretty expensive. Bitcoin, I can barely afford lunch. So why, just a minority of people, like maybe top 0.1% can actually afford one full Bitcoin in a single day. So yeah, Cardano is 78 cents. Elon likes Doge. XRP, it's $3. This is going to be the new influx of investors. And again, we're still at that level where we are not at all-time highs, in my opinion. Just considering this, top, it's like 37. So we're not even at half at this point. We're like at 40% of the previous peak of 2024. And I have a feeling this one will be higher.
This is exactly where we want to be right now. And that is what we're seeing is retail starting to pay attention. And where this gets really fun is something that Raoul Pal was actually suggesting, and I've talked about in terms of ADA and SHIB and other assets as well. And what he said was, sorry, but people are going to buy XRP, Doge, and Cardano, whether you like it or not. I've said this for a long time. Because they're cheap in the absolute term of, how much you pay for a token. So people will do that. And I've mentioned this many times before. When we're going through adoption, there is a reason that things move the way that they do, right? It starts from the top down. You see,
I feel like also an indicator is just like XRP is getting ready with these institutions. And these institutions are buying XRP for cheaper before the big players come in. That's my personal opinion. I feel like that's what's happening. They're buying before the institutions come in.
BTC performing well. BTC has obviously been around the longest in all of crypto. And it's obviously a big thing that is adopted by institutions, governments, et cetera, right? Then you start to see Ethereum perform well. That is phase 2 of the altcoin cycle.
They're going to go for like this market cap, 200 billion by XRP and done.
$100. Holy crap, that's expensive too. Then you start to work your way down. $3 per XRP. Oh, that's pretty darn cheap. I can get quite a few of those for my money. This is exactly what he said, right? That's just how psychology works. He said exactly that. Bitcoin, 116,000. I can barely afford lunch. Ethereum, well, that's pretty expensive. XRP, it's $3. Oh, those are the assets that retail likes to adopt, and that is exactly how we start.
I feel like Raoul Pal is right here. Like, people will start buying XRP like candy at this point, especially because they will see that their own bank is working with them. That's another factor. Like, they will see, oh, the U.S. government mentioned XRP. Let me get some.
You get this kind of trickle-down effect, this boom across the crypto market. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. But this market cycle has been a little trickier than others. And institutional money has kind of changed some of the ways that things are performing or the timelines that we're used to seeing. That's the reason why this year has kind of sucked for the most part. It's because retail has been delayed. And I've talked about this in a couple other videos. And it really seems like we're going to see a cycle that extends into 2026, which would be very different than what we've seen in the past. But this retail suppression has been real. There's been so much.
I feel like 2021 was like when retail came in because it was artificial, more like we weren't expecting so much retail. But there is, like, Raoul Pal has literally said that they are coming. You know, they're coming in a big wave. And this gave the institutions a head start to actually be the first ones to buy the entire supply of XRP. They got a head start. You know, it's kind of unfair, but institutions might buy it at a later price. So yeah, let that sink in. XRP, they're lying to you. This is unbelievable. This is what I wanted to show you guys. This is the most important thing that we're seeing right now.
And I think it is all by design. And I'm going to explain why I think that in today's video. But I want to
BlackRock confirms they have no plans for XRP or Solana ETF. They didn't say ADA. ADA is one of the 3 mature cryptocurrencies under clarity. Only a matter of time. You know, people are saying it's not happening. It is, in my opinion, at some point.
So naturally, what I did is I asked Grok. I asked him
on August 8, 2025. The company has said it has no immediate plans. Strategic focused Ethereum and geographic mismatch with XRP strong trading activity in Asia. So that's like the thing. Right now, XRP is getting traded a lot in Asia, but that doesn't mean it's a bad buy, like or a bad ETF listing. It could still make a lot of money for BlackRock, because that's what at the end of the day is. They're checking how many people would buy the ETF.
AI tools to see what was going on, right? I said, has BlackRock mentioned XRP ETFs? And Grok went on to tell me that yes, BlackRock has addressed speculation about XRP ETFs on August 8th, 2025. The company stated it has no immediate plans to file for a spot XRP ETF.
I mean, if everybody is listing for an XRP spot ETF for XRP, everyone except BlackRock, I feel like BlackRock is waiting for the right moment, and they're also checking how other XRP ETFs perform in October. So I feel like in 2 months or 3 months, 4 months, don't, hold my hand for this, because I'm not 100% certain. They will finally announce what will happen with the XRP ETF. Maybe they change their mind. They want to see, will this really have the same volume as it does with Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Despite the resolution of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, I then asked Grok to cite the source. Tell me, where did you get this information from, AI tool that everyone is trusting? Well, this is what Grok told me. Well, there's an article from CoinDesk. There's an article from FingerLakes1.com. There's an article from CoinCentral, Be in Crypto, The Economist. And then I asked Grok, I want to source directly from BlackRock, not some fake news media. There are 1,000 articles that go out every single day about cryptocurrency that are completely false, completely fabricated fake news. Just because any of these guys covered this does not mean that it's true. They could be lying for views. And then this is when Grok went on to tell me that there is no direct statement from BlackRock's official channels, such as their website or any of their verified, social media platforms anywhere. Tools. And the problem with people.
So the real thing is, what Levi does not know is BlackRock got an email, or was sent an email from the Block news reporter asking about an XRP ETF. This is the only source, but we did not get an official source. We got a reply from probably support agent that we are not getting a listing. Like, there's multiple, right? And this is probably like a chat agent or someone coming back, because there was no official sources. That's the exact thing. So that's the statement right here. There was no official source, like no press release, no events, no nothing. And people got worried that, it's never going to be listed. I feel like it was just one email response. Currently, we have no listings, no plans to list it, but if it changes, we'll let you know. In basics, and that's what we're seeing. BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or Solana ETF. This literally just means that, BlackRock does not have any plans at this time. So there's no official announcements. That's all it means. It doesn't mean we're not going to list it.
Keeps referring to, and all these other news media agencies keep referring to, from the block, saying, BlackRock, which currently lists and trades Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, said it does not have plans for an XRP ETF or a SOL ETF. And then they went on to quote in this article, At this time, BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or SOL ETF. A BlackRock spokesperson told the block on Friday. This is just written in an article. And I want to make this very clear. There is nothing that confirms this statement. We don't.
I feel like this could be just like a generic reply, like, you know, support gifts to someone sending an email. Just like they announced, I'm pretty sure they said the same thing for Bitcoin ETFs 1 year ago.
The name of the BlackRock spokesperson. We don't have an email communication. We don't have a message communication from an official BlackRock channel. Nothing. It's just a quote provided in the block that says that this is the case, so everyone should believe it. And like a bunch of ravenous hyenas, all of these other news media agencies here cover it as if this is fact.
That's exactly the thing. Like, you gotta, in crypto, there's a lot of misinformation. And this is what I've been telling on this channel, is nobody knows for sure if this is even real. Like, it's just one source. We didn't get an official source if BlackRock is gonna list it or not. The thing. We're like, but if it gets listed, again, this would be, you know, it would be silly not to list it. It would be silly because it's a lot of money.
Essentially doing this. Even AI tools are grabbing this and saying that this is legitimate. And so I asked, is there a video? Right? Is there a video confirming BlackRock's mention of XRP ETFs? There is no video. Is there an email or any statement directly from...
They're just keeping silent because it might be like, you know, a lot of activity for them. Or they just don't want to say anything. They just feel annoyed that this was posted.
BlackRock in private communications that is sourced in a verifiable way that can't be faked? Let's ask Grok that question. And honestly, yeah, there's no publicly available email or private communication directly from BlackRock that can be sourced in a verifiable way to confirm their stance on XRP ETFs.
So this is allegedly made, you know, it doesn't have to be 100% real, and everybody picked out on it. That's actually crazy, like, that we all picked up on this email.
So it's entirely possible that the block put out fake news and everyone is stating it's fact.
I don't feel like that they made up the news, but I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication. Could be an employee, like not an official spokesperson. So when you have an ETF, why would you tell your competitors you're also launching an ETF? That's not what BlackRock does. BlackRock literally launches when it files.
Right? And let's see what Grok has to say.
Yeah, BlackRock, the trillion-dollar company.
It's entirely possible that the blocks report a statement from BlackRock about not pursuing an XRP ETF could be inaccurate or misrepresented.
BlackRock is literally owning half of the
Grok is telling me, I want to go back up on this communication chain. Yes, BlackRock has addressed this, but there's no way to verify that, right? So, yeah, take this all with a grain of salt. I think this is all very strange and very concerning that an AI tool will tell you this with no verifiable evidence, right? I think that's going against pretty much everything. And then you have people that go on social media that have their own cryptocurrency that they're trying to shill.
And then they say ADA is one of the three mature. I feel like that's true, you know, like they're going here, ADA, Cardano, and they're just like mentioning it here. Like it doesn't like I lots of respect for Journey Crypto, but the real thing is I feel like all these three will get listed at some point as they get more volume, but the XRP is going to be the first. If it's listed there with other, you know, ETFs, it's going to be listed with BlackRock as well. I'm not too worried about that.
And, oh yeah, just wait for the ADA ETFs. Of course, they're not going to do XRP or Solana. Why would they?
Like XRP has the third or second most trading volume everywhere. It's literally one of the most traded cryptos in 2025, if not the most. Maybe Bitcoin's a bit more. But that's why it makes most sense to list XRP and then Solana. So why would they list ADA when it costs them a lot of money? It makes no sense to me, right? They will list the ones that have the most trading volume. That's Bitcoin. Then they saw money in Ethereum. Now they see money in XRP.
People that were even like, respectable figures in the space saying, I'm sorry. Like, oh, I thought that BlackRock really wanted an XRP ETF, but I guess not. It's just unbelievable. And the reason why this bothers me so much is not just because of the fake news, but also it's because Bitcoin dominance right now is dropping and altcoins are starting to perform very well. This is the perfect time to try and discredit XRP so that your cryptocurrency that you like, whether that be ADA or whatever other crypto, can do better. And it seems like there's
the same thing I'm seeing like 4 years ago is there's a lot of bad sources in the space. And that's why I also repeated this channel or remade this channel, because I wanted to double check everything and give people the full info. On this channel, we really do a deep dive on the sources that we get. We don't just read random stuff and then say, okay, it's confirmed. We actually want to confirm it, right? Because that's our job, basically. And stable coins are now getting better. XRP is getting a lot of misinformation, and it definitely did make some people sell who are new to crypto.
In the XRP space, get tricked by this, get upset about this, saying, oh, I don't know why BlackRock would do this, but there's no verifiable evidence at all. You can't just believe every article that's posted online or what people say on social media. The hive mind is a dangerous disease. It basically makes it so people put out wrongful information just off of emotional things without actually verifying the evidence. And this is even true to AI tools. They can also be tricked this way.
So yeah, the AI was tricked. There isn't any source on this, so I will keep you updated on this, guys. But it is very uncertain right now. It is like people are afraid that it's never gonna happen. But my honest opinion, I was telling you guys, something is gonna be revealed at some point, and everybody's gonna like shocked face, in the next few weeks or days. That's definitely going to be, a realistic scenario. XRP holders, you're being lied to every day.
From my car, I have got guys working at my house today, crypto, and kind of...
So yeah, am I fooled? Like, if you're prepared to wait for a long time, then XRP isn't your thing. Major respect to whoever... okay, so anyway, this is what I wanted to check. XRP has been in a meltdown, basically, with so much information that we don't know what is real and what is not real. XRP is literally, for me personally, the long-term game.
Take your XRP away or anything like that. No, this is a lying to you scenario, because I think that this is big business, and there is just people, individuals, organizations, companies out there that ultimately want to separate you from your XRP, separate you from your crypto.
I feel like that's definitely a truth, because XRP is a very, very profitable market share. Again, Ripple is worth $500 billion. And if they can even get, another project that's not XRP, that's going to be a lot of money. Imagine like what happened if AMD took over Nvidia shares. That would be a lot of money for them, right? And I'm not saying these two are competitors, but the important factor here is there's a lot of misinformation nowadays, and you gotta be careful. You're being lied to every day, and the truth is here on this channel,
so that they can sell it to you later at a higher price, make fees off of you, and all that.
That's what Whale's been doing. During the lawsuits, they've been selling and buying, selling and buying. They've just been playing the game, which is totally fine. That's what, their full-time job is. But you got to realize, here is where XRP really takes a breaking point.
Stuff. Because here's what's happening. There continues to be this narrative out there, this kind of theme of XRP is nothing, it's a scam, it's all these kind of things. And you can apply this discussion to a lot of the top cryptos. Even
I feel like this was like talk that XRP is like, gonna die, is gonna not be here around, is gonna fade off. This has been talked since 2018. I remember people talking in 2017 cycle that XRP is never gonna recover from this. And I was foolish enough to believe it.
Bitcoin. There are still talking heads out there. Sorry, my sunglasses just dropped. About Bitcoin is a scam and all this kind of stuff. And we know it's not, okay? But you're being lied to. in that regard. There's this continued narrative out there. Why am I making you aware of it? Because I don't want you to watch some random video or some random talking person and you go, wow, I don't know if I need to be doing this anymore. Look, if you want to sell your XRP or you want to sell your Bitcoin or your crypto, that should be your choice for your reasons, not because of some, in my opinion, propaganda that's out there about it, or it's ignorance. It's either.
So that's that. I feel like he's talking about the BlackRock like ETF listings. Like, we got to realize the truth is this did not affect the crypto prices at all, but it made a lot of people sell, which they don't even know if it is the truth or not. And I feel like in the next few years or next few months or weeks, you're going to find a lot of misinformation. Now, on this channel, I actually do fact-checked a lot of sources. And when I saw that BlackRock will not list the ETF, it immediately raised the red flags for me, because BlackRock makes money that way. Why wouldn't they list something that would make them money? And here's the deal. This is what we saw in crypto a few years ago as well. So that's what we're seeing right now is what we saw a few years ago.
Propaganda or ignorance out there talking about the fact that XRP is not a good crypto to own. Again, this is my opinion. This is not investing advice. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Yada, yada, yada. You need to do what's right for you. But this stuff really, really makes me angry when I see it. So there's a lying campaign out there, and it's happening every single day. So it's either a lying campaign based off of, we're going to spread propaganda about XRP, about crypto, number one. Number two, we're going to go out and talk about it because we're ignorant about it and we really don't know what it is. And because we don't know what it is, we don't like it, we don't understand it, we're going to attack it. Both of which make me very angry because
there's a lot of people from, I don't want to point fingers because I really think both have their own potential, but from Bitcoin community who said XRP is providing no value. Bitcoin is always going to be the king. But then again, XRP really brought a lot of investors into the crypto space. It's like a really crypto space is one whole thing. And now people are fighting which the cryptos are the best and which are giving the best returns. And it's not a race, it's a marathon. And everybody should be a winner in the end. But we still have people fighting over these random cryptos.
People out there that people trust that are talking bad about XRP, about crypto, things of that nature. That's the lying situation number one. The other lying situation I think that's out there is, I think it all has kind of the same underpinning scenario. I think that this is coming from Wall Street. Because look, the institutions, Wall Street, they want in on crypto. They're coming, they're on their way. And they ultimately want to do what? They want to commoditize crypto. And they want to parse it up and they want to sell it to you. They want to
and they love to get it at a discount. They will get it at a discount if people keep selling, right? But then they buy back at better rates.
Sell you a crypto mutual fund. They want to sell you crypto ETFs. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with ETFs, okay? But they want to make their fees. They don't want you to hold your own Bitcoin, to hold your own XRP. Ultimately, that's their goal. Why? Because they want to make 1 or 2 or 3%.
Or make it so you buy it for more expensive. So you buy it at more expensive prices.
Of you putting your money into their accounts and they manage it for you. And again, they make money. And I think that when you see these executives from these large firms, watch what they say about XRP. Watch what they say about crypto. There's this little bit of narrative like, yeah, we think this is a good thing. Yeah, this is all right. Yeah, but God, we don't quite know yet. So you might want to wait a little bit because we need to do some more due diligence. Why are they doing that? Number one, they're not ready. They're not here yet. All the regulations and all the legalese stuff and all that stuff is not done yet. Okay. And secondly, they want to sell it to you.
And they want to maybe get more capital because right now the markets are really good. So the more capital they get, the more crypto they can buy.
They're lying to you in that regard. Don't fall for it. Now, if you don't want to custodian your own keys, you want to own a Bitcoin ETF or
want to maybe
Bitcoin,
get more capital.
That's your choice. Okay. As an example, when the XRP ETFs come, you don't want to hold the XRP directly. You want to own the XRP ETF. That's your choice. But go into it.
Guys, don't get fooled in this market. Like, this market has been crazy runs, and there's a few new traders, but this is a very old strategy. Again, the institutions are trying to help, but they're also trying to make money. And a lot of people who I saw have sometimes, again, this is not financial advice, but who have sold for a loss have sometimes bought back at higher prices. So let that sink in. They bought at higher prices. They bought at like XRP, I don't know, like $2, $3 when they had it for 30 cents and they sold it for 20 cents.
Eyes wide open. Understand the pros and the cons about each side of that coin. Just don't believe the lies. That's really what I don't want you to get caught in this situation. Pausing for dramatic effect. Look, being in crypto every single day right now is hard. Why? Because of everything I just said in this video. And it's just hard because it's so relatively new. Yes, I know it's been around for 10 plus years and all those kind of things, but we're still new. It's still...
I feel like it's still new. After like 10 years after, it's still new crypto. Like, it's going to be new for the next 5 years. These things still move very slow.
Not hit...
But this is the breaking point for crypto, really.
Mainstream yet. It's not hit massive adoption yet. It's not in the collective consciousness of most people. People know in my world, you know, like friends and family and friends of friends, they know who I am. They know that I'm in crypto every single day. And I still have conversations every single day, pretty much, that have one element of like, I just don't know. I just don't trust it. What is this thing? And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, and I know where that's coming from. It's coming from the little pieces of content that they pick up in their daily lives.
And that's why I really feel like Ripple will change a lot of these things, because the working with the banks is the next big mainstream massive thing. Again, something that you will use daily.
Whatever, watching the financial news, networks, things of that nature, where there's just this little bit of this, we're just not quite sure about that crypto thing yet, blah, blah, blah. It's all a coordinated propaganda lie, or it's somebody out there spreading mistruths because they're ignorant or because they just want to attack it. Don't believe the crap out there.
Or they see like that some coins had lower gains. So Bitcoin had 90% gains and XRP had 350, and they feel like it's unfair. They feel, I saw that with Shiba Inu. They felt it was unfair that, Shiba Inu shouldn't have seen these massive gains, massive returns. It should be Bitcoin. All the money should be in Bitcoin, right? And or my altcoin or my 2000 coin, whatever it's called, I got no idea. But this is where the real problem comes in. People can get very jealous in the crypto industry. Even if one coin performs better than the others, they will try to put that coin down, or they'll say, oh, it's going to go back down, so better sell and buy Bitcoin. Like, they're trying to convert it, and it's a very unfortunate thing.
Just don't fall for it. Okay. Yeah, I'm on my soapbox today, so to speak. 2 things. You want help making more money in crypto? Link in the description below. Go try out my trading.
So yeah, I feel like this is a very clear point across. I wanted to warn a lot of people because this happens very common. Again, you matter. But that being said, what's really going on with XRP? Look at this flash. That's the important factor here.
To happen for XRP.
Breakout point. I wanted to talk about what actually is happening for crypto. Breakout points would be very nice right now to see XRP go for a bullish cross. We've been talking about this one, and he said it's going to be 175% gains.
I'm going to give you my exact expectation there for the next days and weeks. Don't forget to like the video, of course, and let's get straight into it. So first off, guys, I want to start off here on the 4-day chart for XRP on the right hand side of the screen. You can see this downward sloping resistance line, which provided massive resistance in January, but this line is right now flipping into new support, and I expect that this uptrend where we're currently in with higher highs and higher lows is going to continue somewhere here in the next few days. We can also see that H-bar.
So yeah, XRP has been trading basically sideways, and it definitely deserves that breakout momentum, in my opinion. It's been in good levels, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing the same patterns right now happening, like going through these support levels, it is trying to push above a certain price point to go back to $4. And $4, there's going to be some resistance.
Looks extremely bullish as well. We had this downward sloping resistance line, which provided resistance here in January, but is also right now flipping into support for H-bar. So I also expect for H-bar a massive move higher anytime soon. What is interesting is that if we look at the Google Trends indicator with XRP as the search term, then we can see that there's basically no retail interest right now, while XRP is actually consolidating at a...
So yeah, XRP still has retail investors coming in, which is the other big thing that people have been waiting for. Retail investors would be very much hype in that sense.
Very high level, and that is very interesting, but this is also something that is very bullish, because whenever there is a lot of retail interest, we typically tend to see a local top or a longer term correction, but whenever there's no retail interest, we know that the current prices are still very attractive to DCA at. Fundamentally, XRP also still looks very strong because...
So yeah, XRP Ledger not even live yet, and it's on so many. Like it's holding 1.3% market share. I feel like once it goes live, it could overtake that on the RWA. So it is just the beginning of everything.
The XRP Ledger RWA value surged more than 52% in the past 30 days alone, and this is absolutely massive. So there is still huge interest here from institutions into XRP, so pay attention to these signs. But we can also see for H-bar Hedera that the DeFi total value lock TVL more than...
So yeah, it is just getting started. Again, there is much more potential for XRP, but also a downtrend isn't that too crazy. Every time we see an uptrend, we see another downtrend, like even a 50%. Look at this, 95% from $2 to what it was, like $60 here, like $1.7. So again, even if you see drop-offs, just like we saw before, like we saw a spike and then a drop-off here, it is not too crazy. But this is the long term, like 2026 to 2028, right? This is 2018. So a drop-off, you know, is going to be possible for many years if you miss that cycle. Again, based on past charts.
And each and every time when the RSI touches this exact line, we have seen a massive pullback in price. First time in...
I feel like this is going to be hard to compare though, because 2017, 2018 markets were so much different. It's kind of like comparing 3 times smaller market. But it is touching, you know, some stuff in a similar way. XRP really has... The only thing I believe is XRP will be like 2 years of no growth, but still being built up, right? It could be trading sideways for 2 years.
2017, 65% pullback. Second time in 2018, 95% pullback. Then here in 2025, actually in January, 52% pullback. And we are on the verge of touching this trend line once again, but I still think it's going to take at least a few more weeks or so. But at that point, we should be mindful that there could be some additional...
So I feel like this pullback could be happening, you know, somewhere from, based on the previous charts, from potentially November to December. There could be a pullback, you know, and it could last multiple years. But with how good the economy is right now, like 2017, 2018 was a quick market cycle in crypto. It really didn't last long. But now with the government in, like, how can you be bearish? It is possible it drops down definitely at $4. It will definitely, you know, go down. Again, not financial advice. I can't say definitely because nothing is certain in crypto. But based on past charts, like $4, there's a lot of resistance in that way.
From 2017, it happened in the bull run from 2020, as you can see, and it also looks like it is happening once again right now. So pay attention to these signs. On the bigger picture, XRP still looks extremely bullish. We are forming some kind of a cup and handle structure here. If we break this multi-year trend line, resistance line, then I believe that XRP could fly and explode to the upside in the...
So yeah, the thing is, like, we can form a pattern here, but XRP now is just on the verge of announcing their... Basically, they just announced RWA. They are verge of announcing bank partnerships. They didn't have any of that in 2017. 2021, they had a lawsuit going on. So all of these charts are, I could be wrong, but I don't feel like many of them are indicating anything. Like a breakout point could happen, and then we could see, the XRP going back up
in XRP's history. So let's see if this pattern is going to play out once again here for XRP.
3 rate cuts are not expected by the end of the year. So like the 3 rate cuts are definitely going to save us. Crypto will only go further under my administration. Massive signal for crypto and XRP. Again, the government bullish. It wasn't on 2017. It was bearish, actually.
Under my administration, crypto will only go further. And that is, of course, a massive bullish signal for all crypto.
Like, if the government won't give up on XRP, who will? There's nothing much more bullish than that. My plan to make millions with XRP. So I wanted to watch this video. My plan to make billions with XRP. What are the millionaires' plans?
It's happened really quickly, and one of the main reasons as to why they actually dropped the case is because of the Genius bill, which is establishing
So yeah, the crypto has changed forever in just like this year. It has changed overnight to massive levels, and we might never see it drop below, certain price points for XRP. So smash that like button if you haven't already, guys. But BlackRock, we gotta talk about BlackRock ETFs and long term.
Everything has to say about spot ETFs and how they work and how this is going to relate to XRP.
Explain that. The ETFs were like being talked about for the last few years, and that is where like we are going to be seeing most of the inflows for XRP, most of that money from institutions selling back.
Move into ETFs. How far does it go? When we bought BGI in 2009, we were ridiculed by most of the financial community saying you cannot marry the culture of an active investor, who we were, and a passive culture. And we said, why? Our clients use both products. Our job is to be agnostic to our clients, to work with our clients, and to provide a whole portfolio solution. But over time, more and more clients started to think about, how do I want to get an exposure? Do I want an exposure in this area or this product? And I could do that through actively investing in ETFs. In 2012, we said, ETFs are going to be the new engine for fixed income. And boy, did that get a lot of ridicule by many people in the business community. And today, the fixed income markets are totally imbued by ETFs. And so at BlackRock, when we bought BGI, we had $290 billion of ETFs. Today we have $3.5 trillion. And then this week alone, just yesterday, we launched the iShares Bitcoin ETF. And so I would say to you, if we could ETF a Bitcoin, imagine what we could do with all financial instruments. And so what we announced in our architectural change, iShares was this business division in itself, and we thought that's too exclusive. We needed to include the ethos, the philosophy, the spirituality of what iShares can provide in everything we do at BlackRock, because we believe we're just halfway there in the ETF revolution, that everything is going to be ETF'd, and we needed to ensure both active products, passive products, digital products are going to be used through the vehicle of ETFs. At the same time, in this architectural change, we're elevating the whole concept that we are going to be curating more and more of our performance-based products too. So it's a very large architectural change. A lot of people have asked me, iShares is the most successful division within BlackRock. Look what it did. Why are you doing this now? And we believe it's so important to be anticipating the next move.
So Larry Fink.
So guys, why would Larry Fink go bearish on the XRP ETF that everybody has been saying, if he literally said in an interview that they are going long-term about ETFs? They're going to try to ETF everything if possible, especially cryptos on the long-term investing, right? It makes total sense that XRP is on a bullish breakout here. And it's definitely very good because BlackRock is worth about $11.55 trillion at the end of fourth quarter of 2024, a 15-year increase year over year. So it just makes sense that they're going to push for those ETFs to make more money. Again, they're going to get that market share, especially on XRP's trading volume.
And that's why they're heavily invested into ETFs. So if you look at BlackRock's total assets under management, they have 11.55 trillion. And we've already received confirmation that they're going to have an XRP spot ETF by potentially late October. Essentially, the SEC dropping their case against Ripple opens so many doors, because it's not only BlackRock that's going to create an XRP spot ETF, but it's going to be Vanguard, and it's going to be so many more other asset managers. This is also going to help them get integrated into large banking systems. And if we look at the current XRP ETFs that are pending, we can see that there's a whole list of them. So we have Total Capital, Grayscale,
I feel like October for XRP ETFs is still very likely for BlackRock. It is gonna happen, in my opinion, especially because they want to be early with all of these getting approved. They want to catch the wave, right? And they will apply for when the time is right.
Shares, Wisdom Tree, CoinShares. And the main reason as to why these were pending is because the SEC has to approve them. But now that this case is gone, there's going to be so many things that XRP will be capable of. So over here is a list of banks that have adopted XRP. We can see SBI Holdings, Santander Bank, American Express, and the list goes on. And of course, one of the banks that have adopted XRP into their payment systems and that they also own shares of XRP is JP Morgan & Chase, which is the largest bank by market cap. JP Morgan & Chase has a market cap of 800 billion, ICBC 362 billion, Bank of America 336 billion, and the list goes on. So XRP's plan is not to take over the banks, but to get integrated into the banking system. The whole point—
I kind of called that for some time, but the main thing with XRP is they want to really provide services to everyone. Banks, no banks, retail. They want to be the ones that, make these transactions fast, where people really win in the end and banks get their own thing as well. They don't want to be another bank. They want to be the next payment processor.
XRP.
They want to basically compete with Swift, which is worth billions of dollars.
Is to perform peer-to-peer transactions on a global scale. And these transactions are fast. They're almost instantaneous. And they do it at a cost of a fraction of a penny, which is completely different from how the banking system operates. Since they use a Swift platform, which is very slow and is heavy in fees, to have a transaction go to a different country, it might take up to 5 days or even longer than that. So XRP plans to solve that problem.
And that problem is worth a few $1 trillion per month.
What we're going to see is these banks integrating XRP into their payment systems. So what I think is going to occur is we're going to see these banks start to invest into XRP. JP Morgan & Chase has already done it, and they are the largest bank in the world. So who's next? And if we look at their total assets under management, we can see
So yeah, they just are testing it right now. They haven't implemented it yet, but that means it has more potential once they implemented it. This is just in test phases, guys.
2.6 trillion. Bank of America at 2.6 trillion. Citibank at 1.76 trillion. And these numbers are in the thousands. So this is the chart that I created yesterday. And one of the key areas that I did say to watch out for is a $3.30 level. If XRP can consolidate at the $3.30 level and hold it, what is going to occur is we're going to see a pump towards the upside. If it drops below that $3.30 level, then we're most likely going to establish a new base at $3.10. Now,
that is what I was calling. Right now, my base is about $3 or was $3. This is the most important factor. Is right now we are retesting on where people will stop buying XRP. So it could be at any level.
$3.30 level. If XRP can consolidate at the $3.30 level and hold it, what is going to occur is we're going to see a pump towards the upside. If it drops below that $3.30 level, then we're most likely going to establish a new base at $3.10. Now, I don't think that's going to occur. Now we have all the positive sentiment.
Like people who are telling me that XRP is going to go to $2 and they're ready to buy. There's already whales buying at 2.75.
That we need. We heard that BlackRock is going to create an XRP spot ETF. The SEC is no longer pursuing a case with Ripple. We have all of these pending XRP spot ETFs that haven't gone through yet. So there's a lot of positive sentiment for XRP to explode in price. And what I think is going to occur is we're going to consolidate for a little bit here. And then XRP has a lot of sentiment to reach that $4 range.
We believe ETFs are a technology no different than Bitcoin was a technology for asset storage. We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have...
And again, they're working with XRP Ledger to actually make this true. They're working with Ondo, which is using XRP Ledger. So maybe in the future, BlackRock and basically a $11.5 trillion company and XRP could be working together.
Our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we could customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stocks.
That's what XRP is going to offer, like bonds and loans through XRP Ledger.
But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe if you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock, and it's now time to vote. Every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares. Is this the end of mutual funds? I think, well, a lot of people, it's a wrapper. It's not the end of it, but I would say the dominant form of bringing products going forward will be in the form of ETFs.
So we can see BlackRock is heavily focused on ETFs. We already have a Bitcoin ETF. We have an Ethereum ETF. But we don't have the XRP ETF. And
I feel like Solana and XRP ETF are just, set in stone. Feel like it's going to happen at any point here. Could it happen in October? Because they will follow the volume. Which one has the most volume at the start was Bitcoin, then Ethereum. Next one is XRP, then Solana. So this is the most important factor right now. Is we are pushing, for the next XRP ETF that we can. Right now. So there's another one. Most small XRP investors have no clue what's coming. And right now, Kevin O'Leary talked about this as well. Like, look at this. Kevin O'Leary literally talking about what's next for crypto and talking about XRP.
They were young and had nothing. Even the ones that were employees their whole lives that are now financially free had the discipline to say no.
So at the current moment, the cryptocurrency market and also the S&P 500 is not doing too well. We have rising interest rates on federal loans, and we also have rising interest rates on 30-year mortgage loans.
This I didn't understand. Why is the crypto market not doing too well? And we're literally in the lowest unemployment of our life. Inflation is also low. It's nothing like 2022. So I don't kind of agree that the markets are bad. Although this video is slightly older, maybe like a few days older. But the markets right now are pretty well.
I bought for $200,000 worth over $1 million today.
Crypto. So are you still bullish on crypto as an investment?
Yeah, I am actually, but people get crypto confused with its real potential. If you believe in Bitcoin, you think it's a digital gold and you live through the volatility. I believe in both. I believe that crypto will be the 12th sector of the S&P in some period of time because it provides productivity to all 11 other sectors. So the way I own it is I own the exchanges. My exchange, in one called WonderFi up in Canada, just got acquired last week or 2 weeks ago by Robinhood. I'm happy because I think Vlad, who runs Robinhood's great. And now he's...
Yeah, so Robinhood is basically buying everything crypto related. They're going big on crypto. It's another point I want to add. But yeah, crypto is going to be its own thing from the S&P. XRP is going to be its own playing field in that sense.
Got 1 million plus accounts in Canada, a market that he'd never participated in. But the point is, this is never going away. It's going to stay forever. So how do you participate?
So yeah, he's saying that XRP is never going away, which is really great news, right? Because this was not a possibility 10 years ago. XRP could have disappeared forever, especially pre-lawsuit.
You can buy some Bitcoin just like you can buy gold. Buy it in ETF or actually own it yourself. You can buy the exchanges. You can use, you can buy Circle stock now. It's public. Circle makes USDC. You can buy USDC in an account and make 4.1% interest on it right now. So there's a lot of ways to participate. But yes, I'm here to stay. But I've grown up. I was around during the period where the crypto cowboys lived.
Yeah, we're waiting for a mass institutional adoption. That would be definitely the best thing. With a massive influx of retail coming in, that would be the best thing that would happen, you know. Right now would be the best case scenario. But the government is still taking their time with it. So once they reveal that, could be really good news.
And I survived that all. And I even testified in front of the Senate and the House and whatever else the testimonies were during the tumultuous period. Let's talk about digital payment systems, because what's about to pass first, we are days away from this happening, is the Genius Act, which is actually the Stablecoin Act. It was just passed by the Senate 48 hours ago. It's going back to the House. I actually worked on that bill 2 years ago.
So the Genius Act, this was huge news for XRP. They're finally getting the legal framework that they need to be a huge competitor in the banking industry. XRP is finally coming to a conclusion with their lawsuit with the SEC, and the Genius Act is obviously going to pave the road for XRP to continue growing. In this article,
if we ever want to see basically at $10, XRP at $10, the Genius Act needed to pass.
We can see it states XRP set to move trillions. Banking CEO drops bombshell on Ripple's role in tokenizing finance. And it says, according to King XRP, the XRP ledger is on the brink of a groundbreaking transformation that could unlock a staggering $196 trillion of market through the emergence of RealFi and real-world finance powered by blockchain tech.
So 200 trillion is like just the estimated market number. I feel like 200 trillion is really hard to get it's not going to be 200 trillion directly that you will get of the money. It's just like the potential barrier. So the potential here is very high for XRP.
Technology. So where is this $196 trillion going to come from? If you look at the total valuation of all the banks in the world, you'll notice that it's valued at $12 trillion. JP Morgan by itself has a market cap of $800 billion, and this is not including the assets that they have under management. It's simply their valuation. They have so much more assets under their management. If we look at XRP's market cap, it's at $176 billion.
So yeah, important to say that banks, have a lot of assets under management, but XRP and Ripple are totally different companies. So XRP's market cap is not the same as how many assets JP Morgan has and how much the bank is worth itself.
And XRP only has fees that amount to a couple of pennies. Also, the banking system is very slow because they use a SWIFT platform, which can take 1 to 5 days for a wire transfer or deposit to go through.
XRP, we need all the acts to go through, basically, all three of them, not just the Clarity not just the Genius Act, but also the Clarity Act. That's very true.
Low fees, and we also have instantaneous transfers. So that's not something JP Morgan and Chase can do, or ICBC, or any of these banks.
In terms of Bitcoin allocation.
And we're still in very early stages for XRP.
Crypto allocation, what is it now?
It's at about all in. We marked to market last month. It was 19.1%.
19.1%.
Yeah, I have to keep it under 20. It's a sector. So, but remember, in that is the cryptos itself, the Bitcoin, the USDC, and the shares of the infrastructure companies like Circle and everything else. I've got, it was a very successful IPO, and I'm very happy with that portfolio. But if everybody that's listening to this does that, they will maintain and grow their wealth. But it's people bet. They make big bets. They think they're so damn right. They put half their net worth into one sector or one stock and they get wiped out. That's what happens.
So would your mother pick the stocks herself, or would she invest in an index fund? Or
she indexed.
She used it. So okay.
Even back then, they didn't have ETFs. But they had mutual funds that said the only stock in this mutual fund it doesn't have any debt and it pays dividends, whatever. They were very rudimentary back then. They were just collections of stocks. I think she had like 28 names or something like that in the portfolio. But if you looked at them, they were really boring large cap names, but they were sectorally diverse. There wasn't 10 sectors back then. There wasn't 11, there was 10. So
I feel like the thing is right now, no other, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you couldn't get the gains you have now with crypto.
They didn't have real estate as a sector. So, but I looked at it and say, wow, these are really boring.
Most people's primary investment asset is the house they buy. Is that
yes, it is, but it's also the debt they own. It's a primary asset. How much debt does it have on it? It's only the equity value is the asset. So if you're buying a house that's too big and you've only put down 10% and it's 90% mortgage, what do you really own? You really own the 10% at whatever price it is, sometimes housing goes flat for a while. It's okay, but it's not okay if it's too much house.
So at the current moment...
So that's the thing with XRP right now, because it got 350% gains. Even if it goes down 200%, you're still like up 150 if you bought it at the right time, right? And that's really what people are doing right now. They're, you know, focused on the future. They're seeing these assets that lock them in and don't give them any real returns. They're looking for alternatives.
Not only that, but loans coming from the Fed are now at an all-time high. We can see that in June, the federal interest rate was around 0.1%, was very low. And then in May of last year, we reached a high of 5.33%, and now it is August, and we're still at 4.33%. This is very...
I feel like we're gonna get 3 rate cuts anyway for now, which 3 rate cuts will seriously boost the economy as well. Guys, it is time for me to take a break. If you want more content like this, be sure to smash that like button, and I really appreciate you all. I would stream for more, but my eyes are literally closing. If you want more content, links in the comments below. My eyes are closing right now, and I need some sleep time and upload some videos. But there's some videos on my channel. Much love to you all. Been streaming for 3 hours and 19 minutes.